Turn the value up, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score. Raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, winning again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Hello and welcome to the CanesWear podcast on the FTSN network. Today is July 3rd, Thursday, and welcome to the show. We missed a week or two there with Panther fever. It was quite exciting. Florida Panthers, as most of you know, are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and we're hoping some of that magic rubs off on the Canes. Today we've got the legendary, the man himself, Gio, as my sidekick. And we're excited to have 30, 60, 90 minutes or 60, 90 minutes of talk. Remember, bring your comments. We'll try to answer them. Bring your recruiting questions for Gio. Any other questions, any other comments, we'll be glad to answer them. It's your show. We're here for you. So let's go have a good time. And with that, welcome, Gio.
Yeah, it's been I would describe it as a roller coaster of the last 2 weeks. Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. All the re-signings this past week as well. Incredible. Zito's just doing a tremendous job with that front office with the Panthers. Canes recruiting, though, great week. The prior week, whole bunch of commitments, headlined by Vance Spafford, Israel Briggs, bunch of those guys. Really talented players they added to the class. Couple of misses toward the end of that week. Canes fans have been a little bit upset throughout this week, too. There was a miss today in four-star safety Devin Jackson out of Orlando, Florida, who plays at the First Academy. Went to Oregon today. That was expected. But, yeah, I know everyone's curious, like, what are my thoughts on what happens on the 4th? Miami has a major target announcing a decision tomorrow. And they have two others announcing a decision on the 5th. There will be more next week, but there's 3 ones to focus on as we approach this weekend.
So a lot of action. The Canes fans aren't happy about some recruiting misses, but they'll get over it, and we'll bring in plenty of players. Like I said, the Panthers were exciting. Hopefully South Florida will start winning, and the Canes will too. And hopefully the recruiting picks up. I'm sure it will. It will. I mean, I'm always thinking here with the transfer portal the way it is now, recruiting is definitely not as important as it once was. Would you agree on that, Gio?
I still think it is, just in terms of building out the depth on your roster. I've always had the view that the transfer portal is more so of a Band-Aid and quick fix rather.
All right, we lost Gio for a moment there. I don't know if anybody else can see him, but Gio's saying the transfer portal is a quick fix. I think it's the transfer portal is obviously here to stay, and we are definitely going to, hopefully the Canes will still be one of the top teams in there. Remember to bring your comments, bring your questions. We got a few guys on the show right now saying hello. We've got Hassan saying, dynamic duo, thanks for joining. Hassan is a regular. We appreciate it. Remember, the FTSN network is Bobby and the team do a great job. Like and subscribe to the FTSN. They do lots of Dolphins talk. They do they do us as Canes talk. They do other Canes talk and lots of other fun shows. Remember, we're sponsored by CanesWear, the spot, South Florida fan shop. And right now, as you can see in the background, we've got tons of Panther items right now. We've got the new breaking tees, which are awesome, from the Rat Dynasty to my favorite shirts, Kachuk Around and Find Out, which is perfect for the Panthers. We have a Gadjevic's shirt when he did the tongue out, and tons of back-to-back tees, tons of other things like Stanley Cup champion shirts. We just had, they see Gio is back. We just had 11 signings in 4 days, and if you were part of those signings, you were there for the magic. It was awesome. We had Captain Barkov in. We had so many players. We had Gadjevich in there. We had Reinhardt. We had Verhaeghe, Blundell, Mikola, Like I said, Gadjevich, Greer, Nate Schmidt, who was awesome. The only guy we pretty much lost of that group so far. And as Gio said, just an unbelievable job by Zito, an unbelievable job of signing everybody. I mean, the three people we wanted, I really thought we could get them, and we did. I thought those three guys would come back, and it just goes to show if you're a team that's winning, you want to win, you're in South Florida, you're loving it, you'll take a little bit less money to go ahead and play for the team you love. And not only is South Florida great, there's no sales tax or no taxes and state taxes, but also it's just the chance for endorsements and other things. So it's exciting for those of you following. We got Ekblad back, who was in the store 2 years in a row signing, great guy. We signed Bennett, which is great. We're trying to get him in the store. And we did sign, of course, Marchand, who came over from Boston, which is dynamic. And this Panther team is without a doubt, Gio, the best team in all of sports. Not just hockey, football, basketball, baseball. They are the best team in all of sports. And
yeah, two back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. They were in it as well. Before these past 2 seasons, they were in it. They lost that one, but they're competing every year. And you got to love the commitment to winning, to being able to bring those three guys back. And the funny thing is, most people thought before the season came to an end, most had the thought process that Ekblad was probably gone, that he wouldn't return in another year, and they found a way.
Absolutely. They did find a way. And Zito, like I said, I wish the Dolphins had Zito. Time will tell if we want the Canes to have a guy like Zito. But the amazing story about the Panthers is 26 years, between 1996 and 2022, the Panthers did not win a playoff series. And now they are back. Now they've won 3 Stanley Cups in a row, back-to-back champions. So for those of us that are thinking, wow, the Canes have won since 2001, a championship. We have won a bowl game. We've won 2 bowl games in the last 20 years. The Dolphins, if you're a Dolphins fan like I am, they haven't won a playoff game since 2001. So if the Panthers can do it, anybody can do it. So maybe the Canes can go on another big run. And I know it starts with bringing in talent. Mario is getting depth now. We're excited about this year's team, and we're going to talk about them. But obviously, we got to build the recruiting, like you said. The transfer portal, it's all got to go hand in hand. Is Mario, I see a lot of people upset and bleak, as Blue just said. Welcome to the show, Blue. Things are looking bleak. Do we have other opportunities, or will there be other guys that pick up and move? And is this and this is 2026 and 2027 we're talking about, right?
Mostly the 2026 class.
And 25 is in the books. We're set for 25. We're ready to go. And so do we have an opportunity to make this class better? And where would you say we rank on this 2026 class right now?
Yeah, well, currently Miami is 7th in the country right now. There are other teams trending with other top players.
We're only 7th?
Yeah, they're 7th right now in the country. I know when you look at that on the surface, I'm sure you're thinking, Brett, man, these fans are crazy. Like, what are they saying? Like, we're a top 10 class right now. I understand the reason for concern, because a guy like Devin Jackson, most had pegged as, when he decommitted from Florida and the connections to Will Harris coming in as Miami safeties coach, most people thought, man, he should be able to close that one. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case. I have mentioned for a couple months now that Oregon was the main competition there with Miami, and they won out ultimately. I know Miami would like to still recruit him long term. We'll see if there's a window of opportunity there as they head into the fall, but they have their sights set on 2 other safeties that they're currently battling for. That's Blake Stewart from Woodward Academy out of the state of Georgia. Miami's battling there with Clemson. Again, some people think that he may end up heading to Clemson. We'll see. I've seen Miami come out on top of battles before, so it's not like anything set in stone yet. He decides on July 13th. The name that I've brought up for the last 2 weeks that I don't know if it's picked up steam yet nationally, but or from other places or whatnot, but I brought this up for 2 weeks now. Tyree Green, 4-star safety out of Buford, Georgia, who Miami's also recruiting one of his teammates, and he's making a decision on July 5th, and 5-star Bryce Perry, right, the defensive lineman. But focusing on Tyree Green, though, I've brought this up for the last 2 weeks, still stands the same, that Miami is very much alive and in that recruitment alongside Georgia. And most have had him pegged to Georgia for a while, but I try to remind people of the situation that Georgia has 3 safeties committed in the recruiting class right now. They just landed a surprise over Texas for a kid from the Lone Star State and Chase Calicut over the Longhorns just a week ago. They have a very heavy DB class right now. Again, Miami's trying to press there. We'll see if they can get that one done. I know Auburn's still in the mix there too, but I think Tyreek Green is a name that people should circle and watch a little more closely. If you haven't been watching the last 2 weeks, then now you know. But if you've been watching for the last 2 weeks, you know where it came from first.
All right. We heard that from Gio. Tyreek Green, you said?
Tyreek Green. Yeah, he plays for Georgia.
All right. Heart of Sports, welcome to the show. Gio, you've got to go live more. The support is waiting for you. How many times a week are you on, Gio, right now?
Mostly it's twice. When we get closer to the season, it'll be about 3 or 4 times. But it's just there's ebbs and flows in the off season. There's times where we pick up a lot of information, and there's times where it's a very slow, steady pace.
All right. So as the season comes on, and as we know, we're in July, the beginning of July, but the Canes play Notre Dame in August. So really 1 calendar month away from football. So
I think what people are saying is they would love if I went live with. I think they're talking about the show that I have with Amon live every day, but I also want people to understand I have to work around with Amon's schedule, because Amon doesn't currently do like content creation full time. So I have to work around with his schedule for the show. But people love it. The reviews have been great. We're going to still continue to keep on going. Reception.
Well, we're going to have you every day on the CanesWear podcast, since you are the CanesWear podcast, Gio.
Well, here's the thing:
a knowledgeable person like myself and Mando to be as your sidekicks.
Here's the thing that happens. This is just my belief that if you have one specific set show that is every day, there's a little bit of monotony that sets in, that you end up speaking about the same topic over and over again if it's a daily thing. That's why I make appearances on other things. Like I'll be on 560 sometimes. I'll make an appearance on Locked on Canes or Comics on Canes. I do that mostly because I feel it's better to spread yourself around rather than just, all right, this is my thing, and that's just the way I do it.
It's catch Gio. We need him on like buses when they're driving by. Has anyone seen where Gio is today? That may have to be the new CanesWear advertised. Where's Gio? Let's see. Eric, Miami trending out of the top 10. Well, we're still number 7 according to Gio. So hopefully we don't go out of the top 10. Number 1, Kane, when will we have the new gray uniforms? That's a good question. I know there is some other cool items coming this year that will be announced. So we're looking forward to seeing that soon. Let's see. Blue, Miami didn't make Tank Jones top 3.
Yeah,
he's correct. Okay, so we have no chance at him?
No. Tank Jones is 5-star pass rusher out of the state of Alabama. Most people thought early on in his recruitment that Auburn would be the favorite. Alabama has surged really quickly in the past month since official visits wrapped up. There was a time that Miami felt they had a little bit of momentum coming out of his official visit, but everything kind of simmered down after that. But pass rusher is not really a problem that Miami has right now, per se, when it comes to recruiting. I think they have to improve with like recruiting defensive tackles from the high school level is my perception of things. I think they totally recruit pass rushers fine.
So we're not going to get everybody or be in everybody's top.
Yeah,
These other teams probably have more money than us, these rich SEC schools, and people want to stay home too. It's not like Alabama has a bad tradition over there. They've won a few games recently. So yeah, we definitely can't get everybody. Just hopefully that whoever we do get, I always believe that we coach them up and they're better than when they came. That's been a problem, it seems to me, as a Canes fan for so long. We get guys who are supposed to be good, and we say, what happened? They were good in high school. They were okay with us, and then they're stars in the NFL. It's like, what happened in between? And that's what I think if our coaching can build these guys up, because I think that's a big thing. But definitely, we definitely want, obviously, as many 5 stars as we can get. Gerald Gregory, thanks for joining the show. How are we feeling going into the weekend?
Well, you got 3 announcements to watch more close. There's 5 in total that Miami's involved with to some extent. So 2 guys in particular, they're not even really recruiting anymore. But the 3 main ones are the earliest ones. So on the 4th of July tomorrow, Nolan Wilson, the 4-star defensive tackle ranked top 50 in the country, actually, out of the state of Mississippi, he'll be making his decision between Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Miami. It's really down to Miami and Alabama. I've shared my thoughts on this. There's some people around Miami that they feel some level of confidence that they could come out on top. Me in particular, I'm a little, I guess you could say, concerned about that. And mostly the reason why I'm concerned is Alabama has had the most longstanding relationship with Wilson throughout the recruiting process. They were his first Power 4 offer as well. Miami's playing catch up in terms of that aspect. I know they killed it on the official visit. He had a great impression of the program and the coaching staff. He likes the people in the building. But I think ultimately Alabama is going to be very tough to beat out there. I shared this on the private board last week, actually, that I think Miami has a better chance at Bryce Perry Wright, the 5-star defensive lineman that'll be announcing on July 5th, compared to Nolan Wilson, who's on the 4th. And we'll get into that right now. So that's down between Miami, Clemson, and Texas A&M. Between those 3, all 3 programs are throwing haymakers at each other into the final hours. It's a very heavy NIL-led recruitment. I know when people hear Texas A&M, they get concerned because Texas A&M had that historic class about 4 or 5 years ago where they signed, I think it was like 8 or 9 5-stars in one class. They spent millions and millions of dollars on the recruiting class just for those guys to end up leaving the program within a year to 2 years, but that's a whole other story. Miami's still very much in that one. I know Clemson has felt for a long time that like they would be the program to come out on top. But I made a joke earlier this week on Who Wants Smoke with Amon that Dabo Swinney is always talking about God's NIL, that we don't use NIL over here, that we use God's NIL. I think these kids sometimes, yes, relationships are important, especially in recruiting, but I think NIL is continuously taking over, and it's becoming a much more prevalent thing when it comes to these kids' decisions. I don't think Clemson ends up landing him. I think it's going to be down between Miami and Texas A&M.
So we're up there where it's us against Alabama, one player, us against Texas A&M another. These schools obviously have plenty of money. Also, we know they want to come to a school, but also money does talk. And nowadays, so it's I mean, just if we lose out, I see a comment from Heart of Sports. You know, the top recruits looking at us like we're a top tier, a second tier team or tier 2 team. I mean, we're battling.
He's not entirely off on that, and some people may get mad at me. I've said this quite a few times. I think Miami is tier 2 right now in terms of recruiting, and what I mean by that, you take a look at how Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Alabama and Oregon, those programs specifically, have recruited over the last 5 years. Miami hasn't been able to recruit at that same rate. And what I mean by that is they sign recruiting classes that have 5 to 7 5-star prospects. Mm-hmm. And the best Miami has done so far since Mario has arrived is 3. That was unheard of before Mario even arrived at Miami. Like that, you'd have to go back to Butch Davis or prior head coaches to even find something like that for Miami signing a recruiting class to like of that caliber. So Miami's definitely on the right trajectory, but I've had that hot take that I still think Miami has to continue having success, getting in the playoffs, changing the perception mostly to kind of jump into that tier 1 group. I think they're right outside of it, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you're a team that could average between being a recruiting class that's between 5 and 10, I think those are great recruiting classes.
For a team that's won 1 bowl game in 18 years.
Yeah.
For a team that's had two 10-win teams in 18 years. I mean, it's hard. It's amazing that we're so high. I mean, we've really done nothing. I mean, to have 2 10-win teams in 18 years, one bowl win in 18 years. We've never won the ACC. I mean, and we're still in the top 10 of recruiting. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
speaking on the NIL situation as well, because I mentioned that about Bryce Perry Wright and some of these other recruitments. One of the most high profile ones, and mostly because this is a local guy. I've been on record saying this for a long time now. There's people that have literally watched the best of best South Florida players come out of this area for over 50 years now. One guy in particular that I know that has told me nonstop that he does not believe that Calvin Russell, who will be making his decision on Saturday, that he does not believe he's a true 5-star prospect, that he has a tremendous ceiling as a wide receiver, what he could potentially be down the line. But when I see these knee-jerk reactions from Miami fans where they say, like, oh, another top wide receiver out of the area, this is not comparable to a Jeremiah Smith situation, because I've seen some people try to make that direct comparison, and it's not even close. Jeremiah Smith was on an entirely different level as a prospect coming out of high school. Calvin Russell has not even reached anywhere near that level yet. So I think some discourse has been put in that. He'll be making his decision between various different schools. The amount of stuff going on with that recruitment's almost funny, to be honest. But Michigan, Oregon, Florida State, Miami, Syracuse, LSU, probably Florida State is in there too. Florida, there's a whole bunch of different schools. I asked this afternoon someone that has been around him and coached him for the last couple of years now, and the feel they got is that they believe it's Michigan as the choice tomorrow, which would be wild because there wasn't a lot of dialogue between both parties until basically the summer. Like, they spoke a couple of times, but he never really visited that program much. Took his last official visit there. Most people, even around his recruitment too, believe that it may not even be done after he makes a decision on the 5th. And that's basically where it stands. Those guys, 2 other guys that Miami's not really recruiting anymore, but they were on at some point. Chauncey Kennan, 5-star corner out of Sarasota, Florida. I expect him to pick Florida State. His family wants him there. I'd keep an eye on Florida long-term, though. They have some confidence that they could flip him off of that down the line. And last guy, Braden Robinson out of Red Oak, Texas, 4-star wide receiver who's about 5'8", 5'9", runs a sub 10.5 in the 100-meter. He'll be deciding between Notre Dame, Arizona, and Miami. Miami's not even really in that anymore. They stopped recruiting him. But I expect him to choose Notre Dame. It's been trending that way for a long time.
Awesome. Hassan asks, Gio, how do we go from basically being the first or the favorite, and then big name schools come calling and they leave it, and they leave? If Miami really wants to be back, we can't let that happen. Why do you feel that?
I think some people feel that way because of the way the James Johnson situation went down last weekend. The defensive tackle from Miami Northwestern. He's not originally from South Florida. He's transferred over from North Fort Myers this offseason to Miami Northwestern. I understand why people are upset there, though, because there was a lot of confidence about that recruitment, especially coming off the official visit, after the official visit's wrapped up, and then Georgia kind of swoops in there. He makes a comment as well after his decision around a whole bunch of Miami Northwestern alumni that are big-time Miami Hurricane fans too, that he believes he's an SEC guy, that he envisions himself playing in the SEC. And I've been on record saying this before, that people have asked this, and I believe it's true, because I've heard certain comments come out of these kids' mouths at events or just asking questions over the years. There's definitely a bias towards the SEC, that these kids view that it's the best conference to play in college football. Some kids don't think that way. You have your Jackson Cantwells of the world that he says, I don't give a damn if it's the Big Ten, the defunct Pac-12 or the Mountain West. I'm going wherever I can get developed. Some guys view it that way. Other guys, they get attracted towards the SEC and that vibe and how that conference is. But I will share this, though. Fun fact. the last two national champions did not come from the SEC. They came from the Big Ten, Ohio State and Michigan.
Correct. Hopefully that's a trend. That it's now moving not to the Big Ten, but maybe we'll see other teams besides the SEC dominating, especially now with the way money is dispersed differently. I put on for my city, Derek Coe. Welcome. What's up, What's up, fellas? Derek was at several signings for the Panthers. It was great seeing you. Let's see. Dolphin Derek followed Derek after Derek. Any good sales at CanesWear? As a matter of fact, Dolphin Derek, we started July 5th special tomorrow. It's going to be, if you go ahead and buy, let's see, you're going to get $10 off, $75, $25 off, $150, and $50 off $300. And that's all items from, we never discount merchandise. We only discount apparel, but tomorrow through the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's going to be everything from stickers to magnets to trophies to everything is going to be on sale. The more you buy, the more you save. We are going to be closed tomorrow for July 4th. Jeff wants the day off, so I said, okay, as a good boss, why not? Let's go. We're going to have a day off tomorrow. July 4th, CanesWear is closed, but we will be open Saturday and Sunday, but you will be able to go to CanesWear.com for all of your items like the Hurricanes. And we got a lot of cool stuff like the Sean Taylor jersey, the Ed Reed jersey. We have all the player jerseys. And we have the starter jackets. We have pallets and pallets and pallets coming in for 2025. We even got the Marlins, Gio. The Marlins have won, 9 out of 10, amazingly.
Yeah, they got a young team with some talent. I will say, though, I'm a little skeptical of it. I hate to say it because I want to see them do well. They're one of the longest-standing professional sports franchises here in South Florida. But it seems like every time they get a little bit of momentum or some buzz, you hear fire sale. I hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, it's hard to have a fire sale because I think their salary is less than most people make. I mean, this is that team is such a low salary. I mean, it's more than obviously we make, but it's still comparatively to the other teams. I mean, there's players that make more. I think Ohtani makes more money than the whole Marlin team, basically. So I think the Marlins. So we do have Marlin stuff. Is the point there? We have old logo Marlin stuff, which is great. We have Inter Miami. And we have Heat stuff. Speaking of the Heat, I was very excited. I'm going to go right now on record. The Miami Heat draft pick is going to remind everybody of Luka. And I will go on record and say I never heard of the guy before. Kasparis.
Really?
Kasparis is going to be the next type of Luka. He's 6'6". He's a point guard. He can pass amazing. I know he makes some turnovers, but he averaged 15, 5, and 5, similar to what Luka did before he joined the NBA. So this kid is going to be special.
I think that's a bold prediction.
Bold prediction. The next Luka. I know my sons right now is rolling their eyes and saying, Dad, really? Yeah, I mean, you said that to us and it was embarrassing. They're saying it. I said that to them on a group call with my sons. Now I'm telling the world. All right, so look for that guy. I'm excited about him. Let's see. Canes in the CFP this year. Derek Coe, I totally agree. This is the Canes year. I mean, nobody's talking about Carson Beck. I don't know if it was a rumor or what that somebody said he looked a little like Joe Burrow. I don't believe that. I think it must have been that must have been just the Mario story. I don't believe that could have been correct, but nobody's talking about him. And what's his record? 25-3?
24-3 all time.
24-3. He's the winningest quarterback we've ever brought into this program. Remember how excited we were with what was it? Derek?
Oh, Derek King.
Yeah, Derek King. So it was like we were so excited about him, and and he was good, but I think obviously Carson Beck is better, and I think the running game is going to be awesome. We're talking all about the team this year as well. So I agree with you, Derek. CFP this year. Not that we say that every year, but CFP this year. Train 305. Welcome to the show. Why are you fans crying? Also questioning Mario's recruiting. If you can't handle a little turbulence, then you should fall back.
I actually agree on his point to an extent. I understand people's concerns because there was a little bit of hype last summer when it came towards Miami's recruiting class, the certain things being put out there, and people see someone on the staff saying like, oh, a run over the next 15 days. A lot of the run happened within those first few days. There's still decisions that still have to play out or over the next several days. We'll see. But I get it from that aspect why fans are upset with it. They're like, oh, why would you hype that up? And then, it just kind of fizzles out at the end. Like I see the comments. I'm in different group chats and whatnot. I get it from that fans' perspective of that. I've always been of the belief that I'll judge it entirely as a whole once July wraps up and these kids make their decisions and the dust settles and we see what's left on the board, who can Miami still go after, who Miami has a realistic shot at to remaining. I still think it's a little too early. Yes, has there been a couple misses? Yes, over the past week there's been a couple misses. But I want to remind people there's also been some surprises over Cristobal's tenure that he's been here. So I don't want to discount Miami that they're just going to strike out on everyone. I do think a surprise or two, they could find a way to make that happen because it's happened before. It's not crazy to say or even think. I'm not even giving blind optimism with that one. I'm just saying the truth. But I'd rather judge it when we get to August, what the recruiting class looks like. It's still too early, and so many kids are still making their decisions.
Agreed. I mean, fans in general they always micromanage. They're always the moment, whatever's happening at the exact moment. It's not just Hurricane recruiting. It's every team's recruiting. It's all sports in general. People are looking for something to, and that's really just what keeps them going until the actual games happen because it's the off season. Yeah. So really, what else do you have to do but judge? But I do. People jump overboard too many times. We get too excited for the hot new thing, and we get, and we get too upset about something that doesn't seem to be going right. And many times it doesn't pan out at all in either way.
I call it the shiny new toy syndrome.
Exactly.
I always see that when it comes towards the team and how fans are. That fans are saying, like, oh, this young guy is going to play over this or that, and then, there's always that scenario where the guy that was being discounted and not being talked about rises to the occasion or steps up and becomes a starter, becomes a role player.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at a lot. And Canes basketball, Coach L, everybody, he can't field the team. We can't have everybody wanted him fired. They just fired Coach L. Then he went to the Elite Eight and the Final Four, something no other coach has done in Miami history. And now, wait, maybe we shouldn't have fired him. Butch Davis, let's fly planes, get rid of him. Then I can't believe this guy's leaving us. So it's natural as fans to go ahead and get, like you say, the new toy, get excited. We want somebody else. And the grass is always greener, let's just say. Eric, welcome to the show. Is Miami being in the ACC, not winning the ACC championship or making the playoffs really hurting us that much?
Well, I look at it like this. Picture this. And I hate saying this because this is a Miami Hurricanes podcast. But we want to speak truth here, right, Brett? Mm-hmm. We don't want a sunshine pump. I don't want a sunshine pump either. So Miami for the last, let's say, 20 years, give or take, on average, they've been, a 7 or 8 win team. And these kids, this is the reality. Most of these kids have never seen a truly great Miami team. Mm-hmm. These 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are coming up now through the recruiting ranks, they've never seen a great Miami team. Miami, on average, too, every, I would say, 5 to 6 years, they have one team that does really good. Like, for example, we go back to the 2017 group. They had that run. They were as high as number 2 in the country. Or we go back to just this past season as well with Cam Ward and all those guys. Or we could take it back further. The squad that had Duke Johnson, I think it was Duke Johnson, Stephen Morris, those guys, they had one good year. I think it was the 2013 team or 2014? It was one of them.
That year or something like that. We got
they had some good wins that year. They had some momentum rolling, and they fell flat the next year. Or we go back to Randy Shannon era, not his first year, but the second year of Ja'Cory Harris. They rattled off some nice early wins. They kind of fizzled out near the end of the season. The reality is, you can't have one great season every 5 to 6 years and average being a 6, 7, maybe at most 8 win team on the other years. and expect to have consistent success with these high school kids. Miami has to sustain itself as a program. I think that's what Cristobal has been trying to build towards. Just long-term sustained success. Obviously, you want national championships. You want to get in the playoffs. That's the goal this year. You want to get in the playoff, especially making an investment like Carson Beck and the players that they've tried to surround him with. But again, you kind of destroy your sandcastle if you go into this year and don't build on what you were able to accomplish last year. You destroy that sandcastle, basically.
We need back-to-back 10-win seasons.
Yes.
We won 10 wins in 2017, and then we won 10 wins in 2024. I think we won 10 wins in 2006 or 2000.
Yeah, it seems like it's like
we need to get a back-to-back years that we are now, back-to-back 10-win seasons. If they win 10 wins, I know we all want ACC championship, and we want, be in the grade 8. What do we call it? I don't know, the final group. But we want to go ahead and, if we win 10 games and win a bowl game to make it 11, it won't. In a way, it'll be successful because we've improved on last year. Last year we floundered at the end. We know we had a team that could have won a national championship, or at least played in the playoffs. The Georgia Tech game we never should have lost, and we should have never lost the Syracuse game. That being said, we could have easily lost Virginia Tech. We could have lost multiple games during the season.
I think that's what the beauty is, though, of the college football playoff era now, though, with the whole expansion, and they're strongly considering expanding to 16 teams relatively soon as well. I think the beauty of it is there's so much parity now in college football. It's really difficult to run the table and just go undefeated in an entire season now. Compared to teams of the past, there's just more competition now. Coaching has gotten better. Teams overall are just better than they were before. Like, for example, we go back to the game that Carson Beck, I believe it was the game that he got hurt in, actually, when Georgia was playing against Georgia Tech. No, he didn't get hurt in that game. It was the
Georgia Tech they came back on, right?
Yeah.
That's
who would have thought that Georgia Tech would have taken that Georgia to like 7 over? Was it 7 overtimes?
Yeah.
I think it was 6 or 7 overtimes. Who would have thought going into that week that was going to happen? Anything can happen in college football. So I like that the playoffs is now a thing, because a team can have a bad game. Look at Notre Dame last year. People forget the game they had against Northern Illinois. That was like in the first couple of weeks of the season. Everyone thought, oh, their season is ruined. What are they going to do for the rest of the year? They lost to the Northern Illinois Huskies. Exactly. They ended up in the national championship against Ohio State. So
you're all cracking up. Oh, look at this team. Yeah, right. It's amazing. It doesn't matter. But you know what? A lot of teams fall apart. Canes teams in the past have fallen apart when we take a bad loss. That's great coaching. That you got to give it to the coaching staff, because we know we lose a game in the past, we'd fall apart. And the whole season ends. It hasn't been as bad lately, but you lose a game like that early. Like we lost that game against Middle Tennessee State a couple of years ago. It's like we were just, you need to rebound. That to me is all coaching. The coaching staff over at Notre Dame does a great job. I don't think they have the most quality, most talent, but they did get to the national championship, which is a lot better than I think the last national championship they were at was against Alabama down here. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's when they had Manti Te'o.
Exactly, Manti Te'o and his girlfriend, for sure. Juan Manuel, welcome to the show. Hey, Gio and Brett, hearing good things on Marty Brown. Who else have you heard good things about this summer? Bill Belichick and Miss Hudson have only Bill Belichick and Miss Hudson have only fan couple accounts. Is it on fire in Boston? It is on fire in Boston. Okay. I didn't know that. So we get our Bill Belichick updates from Juan Manuel. But what do we know about Marty Brown and anyone else that's surprising, Gio?
Well, the photos have surfaced recently. The kid looks great physique-wise for a running back. I'm sure people have seen the photos as well of Mark Fletcher. Speaking of Mark Fletcher, I know he asked about Marty Brown. Yes, there's been a lot of good reviews behind Marty Brown, but I'll mention Mark Fletcher here, and something I want to point out that people don't recognize. Mark Fletcher has never had a full real offseason with the Hurricanes up until this year.
He's been injured every
As
year.
as a freshman, he came in for fall camp. He didn't spend spring at Miami. He was a fall enrollee, summer enrollee, actually. Going into his sophomore year, he had the foot injury he was dealing with. That was from the bowl game his freshman year against Rutgers, if people remember. He missed the spring, missed most of fall camp. It was even questionable if he was going to be ready in time for the season.
Mm-hmm.
He made it back in time for the season last year. This is his first full offseason, spring and fall camp together. Entire time in the weight room, too. He's dropped some weight. He looks great physically as well. If anyone's seen him recently, I saw him in the spring. I've spoken to a couple of people that have been around the facility the past month. They're really excited about where he is mentally and physically going into this season as well. Some other guys that I've gotten some rave reviews on. Muhammad Touré is a guy I've brought up consistently when people have asked, hearing a lot of good stuff about him in terms of leadership and what they believe he can bring to the table. CJ Daniels on offense at receiver. Heard a lot of good things about him as well. And a guy that's going to be slept on. I know people are going to sleep on this guy because everyone talks about Elijah Lofton, and Elijah Lofton's going to be a dude this year for sure, as long as he stays healthy. But Alex Bowman, the transfer tight end out of Tulane, every time that I've had a conversation with someone about him that's around the program, the biggest word that keeps on coming up is consistency.
Really? So we're going to have Lofton and him in the tight end role.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because some people think our receivers are a little bit thick. We're a little light on receivers. So glad to hear about CJ Daniels. Beside the last I'd heard he was injured, right? When he came.
Yeah.
And so
he was a little banged up in spring.
He's looking good now?
Yeah, he's healthy. A lot of the young guys are under his wing too.
Awesome. That's good to know. So yeah, that could be. So we've got some great, it sounds like some exciting people from the portal. I'm glad to hear about Muhammad Taravius. He was injured for most of the year last year?
Yeah, he missed the entire season last year.
All right, so that's exciting because we definitely need help at linebacker. Dolphin Derek, go Canes, absolutely. Juan Manuel, why is Miami going through a roller coaster? 1 week up in recruiting and down. Next week, how does that happen?
There's ebbs and flows in recruiting.
Ebbs and flows. That's it.
Like I mentioned earlier. Just as quickly as things can seem like they're trending very well and everything, Miami's going into battles with teams like Georgia, Texas, Ohio State. They've won their share too. People forget this, but just less than 2 weeks ago, Miami beat out Georgia for Vance Spafford, a top 10 receiver in the country. They also beat out Tennessee for Tyron Evans. It's not like it's just exclusive to Miami going through ebbs and flows, because you go back to, when was it? It was May. In the middle of May, Miami beat out Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan was even in the mix there too for Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 overall player in the country. So these things, I get it. Everyone's hyper-focused on some of the misses recently, but if you expect Miami to miss on every single guy that they're going after, it's just unrealistic. They're not going to miss on everyone, but they're not going to land everyone either.
They're not going to get everyone. You're saying, we can't get everyone. It's impossible to get everyone. You've got all these other quality teams. And these teams are successful winning programs, the Ohio States, who they won a national championship this year, but they're always right there. The Alabamas, the Georgias. It's hard to compete with those teams. The fact when we beat them, it's amazing, I think. I think when we win the battle of recruiting against them, their fans have got to be saying, we suck that we lost to Miami. They're terrible over there in South Florida. They can't even play football. And how do we lose? Those guys, I believe, expect to get every
I want to interject one thing about recruiting, and I think a lot of this has to do with speaking to some people about this, because I've asked about it. I think it has to do a little bit with the NIL factor coming into play now, because there are kids that their decisions are literally swinging a whole other way within 24 to 48 hours of their decision. And I've followed recruiting for a while and covered it for quite some time now too. that wasn't exactly happening before NIL. Like yeah, there was some situations here or there where a kid would make a last minute decision, but for the most part, you had general ideas of where kids were leaning for the most part. Almost every single prospect, you would have an idea of which program. Nowadays, a team could be leading for a kid, and a Texas or Texas A&M comes in at the last minute and decides, we're going to pay you X and X 7 figures over the next 3 years with a 1-year option. Would you take this deal? And that's what happens and comes into play now. And now there's also schools. This is actually a true story. There are schools that are paying just to get a kid's commitment right now, number one. And number two, there are schools that are paying players just to take a visit. Not even to commit, just to take a visit. Wow. It's a real thing.
Mm-hmm. So these teams obviously need money not only for transfer portal, which is probably more expensive than recruiting, but the recruiting as well. And each team now gets what, $20.5 million? Is that the number?
Yeah. I spoke to a booster. That helps one of the big 3 teams in the state of Florida. I'm not going to say which school and whatnot. I don't want to put the guy's business out there. But there are a collection of boosters at these different programs. I don't even think it's exclusive just to the state of Florida. I think this goes on at other programs too, that they put together their money so that these kids' parents, the prospects that come on campus, so that mom and dad could have a great time and everything goes swell while they're there, on top of everything that's already being done for an official visit. It's gotten crazy.
That is. No doubt about it. Well, that's, kid. I mean, if it's the kids making that decision or is it the parents making that decision, who knows? That, let's go, Johnny, we want to go over here. We want to take a trip to South Florida. Let's go. Let's pack up the family.
There's definitely some free trips sometimes.
Absolutely. Why not? You deserve it. Garrett, can't wait for the season. I agree, Garrett. It's right around the corner. 59 days. Hassan, we appreciate you. Gio, appreciate you both. Thank you very much, Hassan. We appreciate you for always being on the show. Doc Kilby, there you go. Welcome to the show, Doc. Does anyone understand the world of football and recruiting? We're going to find out right now. Geez, absolutely. Okay, yes. I agree. The complaints, people, but that's just the way the nature is, Doc. I agree. People, they want instant gratification for their team. A lot of times we're rooting for a guy to be on the team, and we don't even know if this guy's going to be able to perform. Let's face it, we've gotten 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, and then he's with the program for 2 months, and we're saying, why did we ever get this guy? I mean, people one moment can be saying, like, it's life or death if we get somebody, and then another moment it's like it's life or death if we got to get rid of him. Why'd they pick him up? So it's the recruiting game. I think it's what makes college football stand out more than the NFL. And one of those things is the recruiting, because I don't think fans in the NFL get this excited about free agency because it's so fast, free agency. It just happens. You have a small window. So I guess that's part of the glamour of college football, that people can really get to know these kids as young kids. They kind of feel like they're part of their family. So I think that's what it's all about, Doc. But I do agree. People in every instance of everything take things too seriously. But that's, at least in college football, it's free to do it. You might as well. Everybody's got an opinion, and we want to, we want our team to do well, which is what makes us fans. Do you agree, Gio?
I agree.
So awesome. Blue, are you hearing baseball news? Are we going to have to land a Friday night starter?
Well, they've had some pretty big additions recently. I don't think they're done yet. I'll be honest with you. Baseball news, like in terms of the transfer portal, is one of the hardest to come by. Like I get news in terms of football, basketball, way ahead of time. Baseball, sometimes I don't even get it up until like maybe an hour or even 30 minutes before a kid ends up committing to the program. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's like that by design or if it's just the buzz is not like large like that for the transfer portal in baseball, but I'm just being totally honest there.
No, exactly. And to Doc's point about, we micromanage, we look at things like that. Last year, the Hurricane baseball team, there's really nothing good to say about them. The whole year, we had that one, 11 out of 12 win streak. We did so well, and then we lost 7 out of the last 8. And then we amazingly got in. I mean, it was a miracle that we even got picked to be in the regionals. And then we won the regional. And then we almost won the super regional. First time we're in the super regional in what, since 2000 and
it was 2016, I believe. Was
so like 8 years. So, and then people are upset that we didn't win, which I understand. But what this program, we all wanted to fire Coach JD, and now it's like, and some people still do. But you know what? He did such a great job with pretty much a whole new team that I'm excited for baseball.
I think they overachieved. I think they overachieved
definitely
relative to what the talent actually was on the team. Yeah.
Do they have most of their team coming back this year?
They have quite a few pieces coming back. They've made some really good additions through the portal as well, especially the guy they got from FIU is going to help them a lot too. The recent transfer, oh man, his name is skipping my mind now, but has an Italian last name, basically. The most recent one.
All right. Can't think of that either. But no, it's exciting. And I mean, right now, I don't recall a time that Canes Sports has had excitement in all 3 of their big sports. I mean, baseball, there's excitement. Basketball, with Coach Lucas coming and all the players. There's supposed to be a big announcement soon for baseball or basketball. Didn't I hear that recently, Gio?
Yeah, basketball will be getting a blue chip commit.
A big announcement. Okay, so that's exciting. I'm excited about him. And, of course, Canes football. I mean, off of 10 wins. And we got Notre Dame and Florida in our first 4 games. 8 home games. If we should sell out every game. I know we won't, but we should sell out every game. And you know what? For the fans that say, what can I do? If you go to the games, outside of Notre Dame and Florida, the ticket's probably going to be $10 for every game to get in. But if we sold out every game, do you think recruits sometimes look at how many people are in the stands?
I think it affects some of them. I think for the most part, it's just the NIL factor.
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
It's all about the money. But, sometimes you go to a game, you're a Friday night game against Virginia, you say, is there like 24,000 people here? There's more empty seats than seats. And I feel for the players. At that time, they said, wait, I just came to Miami over Ohio State and the Horseshoe where there's going to be 90,000 people. And I over here. I'm ordering my own. The guy's bringing us our sodas because he's got nothing to do in the stands. Let's sell them. Anyway, Gold Jacket U, 2-tier team. Yeah, we could be a 2-tier team, but plenty of 2-tier teams can win the championship too. Let's see. Dabo Sweeney will make an outstanding used car salesman. Juan Manuel, good point. But I do like that he has been firm on the NIL thing. I like the fact that he stuck to it and he said, this is the way we're going to do it. I like it because he's not going to be competition against us and a lot of players. That's for sure. I hope I wish Alabama would stay out of the NIL and all these teams could stay out of the NIL. And Nick Saban was the ultimate used car salesman, or was he a new car salesman with that deal?
Oh, well, he wasn't even a salesman. He'd just take it through the back garage dealership and just hand over the keys.
Absolutely. Gold Jacket, you remarkable given we've been in the dirt for 2 decades. Exactly. For 2 decades. It's amazing that we have so many great NFL players and we just have not been that good. But you're right. 1 bowl game between 2007 to 2025. 18 years, we won 1 bowl game. Well, hopefully 2025, we will win one. We will win one. Okay, got to win the ACC or make the playoffs. Exactly. Juan Manuel. Gio, 5 to 7 stars, 5 to 7 5-stars in one class. That's Alabama, Oregon, Texas, Georgia, and maybe Ohio State level.
That's what I was saying earlier, that I think people have to understand that too, that I've said it, and I don't know if people get upset when I say it, but it's just the reality. I think Miami hasn't made that exact jump yet. And that's not an entirely bad thing, because to make that jump, it's just like the consistent success. And Texas has been more recent when I say that too. Like it's more so like the last 2 years. And a lot of that has to do with their resurgence with Sarkisian and getting into the playoffs, and even last year as well. So I think just Miami's just got to continue winning. That's the only way how you continue.
Everything. I agree. We need 10 wins this year, at least. No doubt about it. And we need 10 years.
I think Miami could be tier 1 in terms of recruiting if they like win and get into the playoffs and just people have to remember the brand, like the University of Miami is a national brand. It is. People recognize that logo, but it's about the perception too. Like, yes, one great year, but one great year every 6 or 7 years is not going to cut it for some of these kids. Maybe for adults like us, like, oh yeah, we had a great year. You remember that year we had with Cam Ward? Okay, but how about the next one? Let's build.
Can you say it's a great year if you don't win get in the ACC championship game? I think it's a
It was a memorable one. We'll leave it at that.
Memorable. That's exactly it. And if we can follow up, if Carson Beck can be a top 10 draft pick, I think that will make us quarterback U again, which we have.
Well, Miami has the opportunity to potentially have 3 guys in that first round discussion this year when you consider like Carson Beck or Ruben Bain or Francis Mourinho, as long as the stars align and
Correct.
they have the seasons that people would hope and expect for, they can be in those conversations. We never know anyone else that could emerge or whatnot, but yeah.
Exactly. No, I agree. You just never know. But, we can solidify the quarterbacks because we've never really had great. I mean, Jim Kelly was an excellent quarterback in the NFL. Bernie Kosar was a very good quarterback, almost got to the Super Bowl a couple of times. It wasn't for John Elway in the drive, for those of you all know. Remember that? Vinny Testaverde. But, we've had 5 different quarterbacks win national championships, which is amazing. And but none of them have really, they've been good at the next level. Kelly probably the best, but no one's ever won a Super Bowl that I believe. Juan Manuel Cooper equals Jeremiah Smith caliber. I think that's a pretty strong statement.
I think he's talking about Derek Cooper. I think Derek Cooper is a really good athlete. I think he is a 5-star talent for sure. Potentially could be a better linebacker than running back, even though he's a really good running back. But I think just Jeremiah Smith as a prospect, like high school as translation to the collegiate level, I think Jeremiah Smith is the best prospect to come through South Florida in over 20 years. And what I mean by that is the comparisons were literally to Andre Johnson coming out of high school. And you could easily see why now.
And we've had some great guys come through.
He was so ahead of everyone else. Like, it was just, you had guys like right here that were really, really good. And then you had Jeremiah Smith here. Like, just, it's so hard to explain, but way advanced for his age group and just even coming into college football. He's Miami fans will hate me for saying this, but he is the best player in college football. He is.
Wow. Can you imagine if he would have been an orange and green? You believe if Cam would have made the decision earlier, he would have come with Cam?
Yes.
Wow. Then we probably win those games that we didn't win, and we are in the playoffs, and it's a whole different situation. But that's amazing. Let's see. Renaud, thanks for joining the show. Would you say JoJo last year is a better prospect than Russell this year?
Yes, without question.
Really? So you're high on JoJo.
Much more polished. JoJo's much more polished than Russell. Russell's still kind of filling out his frame too, like getting comfortable with his body as well, because he was still growing too. I think just JoJo's more polished. I think JoJo is more smooth and fluid than Calvin Russell is. Calvin Russell, again, people are going to take this as, oh, he's dogging him as a prospect. I think Calvin Russell is a really good football player. I just don't think he's a 5-star prospect, and I've said this over and over again for months now.
Well, if he goes to Alabama, he's a 5-star in the books. If he goes to Miami, he drops to a 3-star. Jay Parker reposted the stream. Thank you very much. Let's see. South Florida kids hate Miami from Gio Kane. That's not you, Gio, is it? No. So I don't think South Florida kids hate Miami. We've definitely been signing more. I do think there was a time when Pat Surtain's son didn't come and everybody else. And by the way, I saw Pat Surtain at Quarterdeck, and he had told me that they wanted to come to Miami that year. They all came to Miami that year. But who was coaching us then when they didn't let Pat be a coach?
Mark Rick was actually there.
Not Mark Rick, but yeah. So that would have been we had him and the safety. What was the safety's name again? The other one?
Oh, you had That was Pat Surtain Jr. and Tyson Campbell.
Tyson, yes, and he said they were both coming, so that was a tough break for us. Juan Manuel, prospect Russell is a higher upside. So Juan Manuel is discrediting you on that and saying, as a prospect, Russell is a higher upside. He's a year 2 player. The good news
have the higher upside, but there's been a ton of guys with great upside, but just not enough polish or not enough readiness yet going into the next level that don't live up to it. And I have my questions and concerns of, is he actually going to live up to that ceiling? And I'm not the only one with those concerns.
Well, the good news is we're going to find out in a couple of years. I mean, right now it's obviously all just talk, but then we'll find out. And obviously there's a lot to do with who's their quarterback, who's their coach, what's their offensive game plan. Hassan, Bryson Wright can be the next Jeremiah Smith. Everybody's the next somebody. That's the great thing about sports.
Brett, I'll be honest with you. He may not be entirely off. Bryson Wright is a true freshman right now. Will be a sophomore in a couple of months. He's better than 99% of receivers playing high school football right now, and he's much younger.
He's just a freshman?
Yeah, he's a Florida State legacy, but I heard from some people around him that that may not be like an entirely deciding factor. We'll see.
What's he class of 2028 or 29?
2028. He's still some
a long way to go. For
he'll likely reclassify though. He has no need to stay in his current class.
All right. So Heart of Sports, Smith is tier 1. Tier Tristan Key, tier 1. Tristan Keys is a tier 2.
I think Jeremiah Smith is a better prospect than Tristan Keys is. I still think Tristan Keys is an elite wide receiver. I think he's like more of a sure thing compared to like a guy like Calvin Russell or other receivers out there that Miami has been or may have been involved with before. Yeah, I would put Jeremiah Smith over Tristan Keys. I don't know if I would put it into a tier thing because I think Tristan Keys is really talented himself, but
Gio Kane, that's South Florida. South Florida Gio. Awesome. Now that we've got the Geos correct. Thank you for telling us that. Juan Manuel, how dare you say that about the SEC? Nobody should have a bad word about the SEC. We all love them, of course. Ever since it became, it seems like college football started going ahead and circulating around all about the SEC. I remember the days it wasn't about the SEC. Those were and I don't think it'll be about the SEC anymore, even though they are trying to have like what? In the new 16, they want to be like 8 of the teams in the and they want 8 of the teams from the Big Ten, and nobody else gets in the playoffs. It's basically like an SEC and a Big Ten, and probably all the teams will be in the SEC or Big Ten. I wonder, Gio, just how much being in the ACC hurts us. I think someone was asking that, but we don't get as much money.
It hurts to an extent, and a lot of it just has to do with perception. These kids believe that the SEC is where the best football is played.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, the Big Ten has won twice. If the ACC can win a couple of times, the terrible thing about the money on that is ESPN just has to rewrite the darn contract, which they refuse to rewrite, which is ridiculous. Only if we drop below a certain amount of teams, right, will they go ahead and rewrite it.
I think the ACC will be dust of a conference over the next 4 years. I don't see it surviving. I see the same thing happening with the ACC. Like what happened with the Pac-12.
And do you see the new Pac-12? I mean, they're all excited. Pac-12. Does anybody know any of those players on those teams? I mean, I don't know. It's crazy, the whole conferences now. Just get rid of all the conferences. That'd be kind of cool. Jacoby Graggs, welcome to the show. Jacoby's a regular. You got to understand the South Florida kids. To be specific, the Miami kids, partners have some type of hate towards the University of Miami and push the kids to go elsewhere.
There are some scenarios like that where some kids have handlers.
Correct. They don't want
we all free agents as well that push them to other places, but he does have a point.
Yeah. I mean, we're in competition with everybody. When Howard Schnellenberger said, the state of Miami, we're going to put a fence around the counties, you can't do that anymore.
I do think there's a double standard. I'm going to call a spade when it comes to some of these South Florida kids. They'll go and settle for a 6 or 7 win SEC team over staying home and playing for Miami that may have won more games or just right around, that same figure in the past.
You can say that they're
It's crazy to wrap your head around it too, but it's happened.
That's pretty sad that the SEC is that dominant. But I always feel there's a pendulum. Everything swings back and forth and comes around if the conference survives. Heart of Sports, Calvin is like a tier 3 high upside wide receiver with bust potential. All right, who's that? Calvin Russell?
Yeah.
He's not too high on him. ACC has Duke, Stanford, and Cal, all outstanding academic schools. You're right, Juan Manuel. We are definitely trying to be the best conference in academia. I do agree on that. I still don't understand this whole thing. Teams, I don't know how volleyball and swimming, are they flying to California?
Who?
The ACC kids that play in Miami and they're swimming, are they flying to California for a swim meet?
To be honest with you, Brett, I've never asked specifically about that, but that's something
running over there for a volleyball event.
I'm gonna try to find that out for you, because if that's the case, wow, like
there's no money in those sports at all, and they're making them travel across the country. I mean, that's the one negative about all this. I mean, I can see football, which is obviously the moneymaker. But to travel all over the country, I mean, that's crazy. But I would like to know, is the swimming team flying everywhere? That I'm curious of that. Grab your bathing suits and let's get on the plane. Gold jacket, only way to fix it is by winning. Correct. These kids were not alive last time Miami was good. Great point. 2001, 2002, which is our last national championship teams. One of them we got job done, of course, 2002. That would be kids would have to be 23 years old. Now, maybe some of the juniors and seniors that have been redshirted 5 times and have medical, they were around maybe 1 or 2 years old. But most of the kids that are recruits have no idea that we were ever good. You're 100%
correct. I think Brett was gearing up for a Cam McCormick joke in there. He's a great kid, by the way. I had the chance to spend quite some time around him a couple of years back. Really good kid. Really good kid. No, he's with the New England Patriots front office now.
Oh, wonderful! So who is the Cane that has that now? Is recognized
the most tenured guy right now. Let me scan the roster in my head. QB, running back, receiver. I would say that would go between James Brock or either Akeem Mesidor or Mohamed Teray. One of those two guys would be the longest tenured in college football.
Interesting. What are they, 5th or 6 years?
6 years. I think one of them might be a 7th. I have to double check that.
Why leave if you're getting paid?
It's true.
Yeah. Guys are going to be like, who was the Florida State quarterback a few years back? Wenke? He was like 25 or so when he was drafted, I think.
Yeah, that was.
And that was at that time really an outlander because nobody was like that. Juan Manuel, who do you hear is making noise this summer? Is Beck doing well? I'd say the least talked about quarterback we've ever had at the history of Miami is Carson Beck. Nobody talks about him. And what do you hear on how he's doing? You mentioned the other guys doing well.
I'd say less is more. What I have been told is they are impressed with how he is in the film room, the time that he spends with the guys. There was a really nasty rumor going around a couple weeks back. I don't know where it originated from, but people were just running with it saying, oh, hasn't been seen with a team or this or that. No, Carson Beck has been with a team and he's been around them. The crazy stuff comes out around this time of the year where people just get bored.
Rumors.
People just get bored and come up with things. But that, for the most part, in terms of him throwing, I know early on there was some limitation that they weren't allowing him to throw like deep downfield yet. I don't know what the latest prognosis is on that. Like, I don't know if they've allowed that yet. My personal take on it, I think what people are going to see with Carson Beck, that I think he'll be good early on, but I think he's someone that he's going to end up turning on that switch about halfway through the year, that you're going to see a difference from like the start of the season towards the back half of the year. And I think some of that has to do with just precaution. I think Miami will lean on the run a little more just to not, just burn him out early on, especially coming off an injury.
Now, what do you think is Carson Beck's biggest and best attribute? I know he had that great year with Brock Bowers.
He knows how to win.
What is his best attribute?
He knows how to win. I
Knows how
know
to win.
I know he's not everyone's favorite quarterback out there, especially if you ask the national guys. But I remember going back. I hate to make this comparison because it was a Florida State guy, but this guy was another one that he just found a way to win.
Mhm.
Everyone remember Jameis Winston, all the different things he had going on. At the end of the day, at least at the collegiate level, even if his throwing motion wasn't the best, or people would nitpick things, the crab legs, this and that, or people talking about Carson Beck's girlfriend or off-field stuff or whatever, Jameis Winston was a guy that he found a way to win games.
Mhm.
Bottom line. And I think there's an innate ability with that. We go to a guy like Tom Brady. I don't want to compare Tom Brady to Carson Beck or any of these guys because, just the amount of success he had. But I do think it takes a certain level of talent and confidence to be a winner, whether it's anything in life. You have to believe in yourself. You have to be able to lead.
No, that's important. A lot of guys don't have that confidence. I mean, does he throw a good long ball? Does he throw a good out route?
I think if people are looking for zip on the ball like Cam Ward had, I don't think you're gonna really find that with Beck. I'm not saying that he has a weak arm. He doesn't have a weak arm, but just not the same type of zip on the ball where like Ward, that thing just got out of there quick. I think he processes the field better, and what I mean by that is he's actually willing to take the check down. Surprisingly, he may be a better downhill runner than Cam Ward was. Cam was more agile, but downhill, if you watch Carson Beck's tape over the last several years, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. Again, I just think he's a leader.
I think he's an athletic Ken Dorsey, you're saying?
Definitely a much stronger arm than Ken Dorsey.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I'll give credit to Ken Dorsey, even though he did not have a strong arm, he still got the ball to his guys. He was able to facilitate it. But Beck definitely has more zip on the ball than that. I wouldn't compare it to like Cam Ward. If people are expecting like that super lightning quick release that Ward had, that's not how Beck is.
So I remember when Steve Walsh was the quarterback here, who only lost one game on Miami, and that was the Cleveland Gary didn't fumble game back in 1986, I think it was, when Cleveland Gary fumbled or didn't fumble at the 1 yard line. He had a nice soft touch. I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks ever at Miami. But Craig Erickson, his backup, had a ton of zip. So he's probably going to fall somewhere in between that. And both of those guys knew how to win because they both won national championships. So if we can get that, I mean, we don't care what he does. If he brings a national championship to the University of Miami, he's going to be a freaking hero.
I just think the amount of experience he has.
Yeah, winning is everything. You're right. The difference between winning and losing is key. Juan Manuel, Luka eats a bucket of KFC chicken during the timeouts. Thank you. I'm assuming we're talking about,
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic, who I called earlier. Kasparis for the Miami Heat will be the next Luka. You heard it here first. And if it doesn't happen, then you didn't hear it. Duck is in the hair, everybody. All right, Duck is in the house. Welcome, Duck. Mullet Run. He is in the house. Kim Everett, welcome to the show. What kid is not a potential bust?
Yeah, it could happen to anyone. Multiple factors off the field. Kid not a good fit for a program. That's happened before. Miami's taken guys in that, like, perfect example here. Most people thought Jalen Phillips was going to be a bust because of how the things were playing out at UCLA. He had the injury, got a second opinion, came to Miami, turned it around, made it to the NFL. I know he still had some injuries in the NFL, but still a really talented pass rusher, though.
Correct. If he was healthy, I mean, when he's healthy for the dollar, he hasn't missed a step. Both those guys we had, I just still look back and say, if we would have had both those guys playing together, Russo and Phillips, that would have been as good of a defensive line as we ever had. when Russo basically sat out that year, didn't he? The COVID year.
Yeah.
But you're right. Jalen Phillips, a lot of people thought that. But it's so tough because, the game is, while you need to be athletic, it's also mental. And the higher you go up in, from Pee-wee to high school to college to the NFL, the funnel keeps getting smaller and smaller, and the athletes keep getting better and better. And a lot of these kids have been spoiled since day one of their lives. I know when I coach some superstars in sports, it's like you let them do what they want a lot of times, or you wouldn't let somebody else. So it's like
what's funny about what you said, Brett. I'm not going to say any names, but there are I know this doesn't take place at Miami because of the way things are operated on a day-to-day basis, but at the high school level, there was a couple of guys that are actual blue chip. They were blue chip recruits, highly recruited guys that Miami ended up signing. I would go make my spring tour every year and visit different high schools and whatnot. And I spoke with a couple of people, even a guy who's now an NFL agent, actually. He gets these guys signed with the teams and whatnot and handles the whole draft process. But there was two in particular players that are now at Miami. Won't name the names, but they were known for sitting out practices. Not because they were hurt or anything, just because they just didn't want to practice.
Mm-hmm.
One happened at Miami Central. That player is actually, let's see. The player is actually still with the program now, but it's not the linebacker who everyone's thinking of. And another happened at another program, and if I said which program it was at, people would know immediately. But I found that interesting. I thought, you'd want to develop good habits at that level that carries over to the collegiate level. But again, some of these kids are divas and they want to be pampered. It's been that way since they were in Little League, carries over to the high school level. Coaches have to nip that in the bud when they get to collegiate programs. This is also why you see like these high profile recruits sometimes butt heads with these high profile programs, and they're out of that program within a year. Like, it's not even just like the talent factor, it's just the mental too.
No, good point. It's a lot of factors. Great point there, Kim, about kids could be a bust. Also, Kim chimes in with, if Jay Smith doesn't get off this year, then they say he's not very good. And he
could have an injury and might have an off year.
But even Amon, your partner on the other show, he had the great freshman year. The second year, he was missing a little bit. He was off. He was injured.
Yeah.
Before the big injury, and people were like upset with him and booing. I'm thinking like the guy I remember, Steve Feinberg, a buddy of mine, buddy of a lot of people. If you're booing him, you shouldn't be a fan. I mean, it's like, a guy has a great year. It's like, what have you done for me? Not lately, but what have you done for me yesterday or today? I mean, that's what the fan cares about. I remember Jimmy Graham came over from played basketball, played foot, dropped 2 passes, I think, against Virginia Tech. Everybody hated him. Then he becomes a superstar in the pros, and it's like, oh, I knew this guy would be great all along. If the fans, if we had the tape on us half the time, it'd be a little bit of a problem. But you're right. Kids can go from superstar to bust overnight, and it's not as easy to go the other way though. I mean, Mike Harley was, he was our all-time receiver. Then he never dropped. He dropped a couple of passes, and everybody was all over him. Then every time that they threw the ball to him, it was like, is he going to catch it? Is he going to drop it? It's like fans can be unforgiving. And once they don't like somebody, they don't like somebody.
No, but you know what's even funnier about that? I've seen scenarios where fans hated certain players, eventually came to love them. Mm-hmm. And then when these players were done and gone from the program, like finished up their careers, fans talk about them like in the highest light. Exactly. And I've seen this before, and I'm just like, wait, weren't you just saying this? Or like, you really switched up. Like,
it's Teflon. People are Teflon. It's like, oh, I didn't say nothing sticks. It's like, okay, fired Larinaga. Next day, he's the greatest coach in the history. People do that. I remember the guy that played for the Packers. What was his name? defensive back for the Packers. He was a wide receiver defensive back with us. Probably was the
Tim Shields.
Yes, exactly. Turned out he got that giant contract, and so he didn't do too well, and he dropped some balls. But then people then it's like he gets the NFL is doing great. Who do they blame now? It's not his fault anymore. It's the coach's fault. It was the way we used him. I
always have the belief that there's three things that come into play. One, it could be the coach. Two, it could be a player's habits. That happens a lot. People overlook that. They'll say, "Oh no, but the coaches are not." Sometimes it's the habits as well. It's the mental of the player that's being brought in. So it falls back on the coach again too. Third part is scheme fit. I've seen it happen where players explode when they go to another program. That it just wasn't the right fit for them at the prior place.
They were saying that for a while when D'Onofrio was the defense coordinator. It's like, why are we playing these kids so far? They should be playing man to man like they play in high school here. And you have to have the right scheme for them. Absolutely. Speaking of Tom Brady, Juan Manuel chimes in. Hey, Tom Brady at Michigan people wanted a 5-star Drew Henson to supplant Brady. Even the coach did everything he can to give the job to Brady as platoon. So that is true. They don't know. Look at Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow, Urban Meyer thought he was the greatest thing coming out of high school, but he wasn't good enough to play for Ohio State, so he went to LSU. Burrow, they had that good quarterback. Who was that? Hanson, the kid that died on the highway here, who was excellent, but he was no Joe Burrow. And then Joe Burrow goes ahead and he wasn't even that good at LSU the year we played him. He seemed like he was an average quarterback. And the next year he just blows up. Now, granted, he had Jefferson and he had the two great receivers, but he had an amazing arm like he does in the NFL now. It's like, okay, so you never know when a kid is going to develop. He could be a 5-star, and then it may take him 3 or 4 years to get good. It may not be the right scheme. It may not be the right coaching for him. 100% correct. They're just human beings, and the biggest thing is they're kids. I mean, I assume most people here are older than 18 on our board right now. And you think 18, that's just like a kid. It is a kid. All right, so that's true on Tom Brady. Coming out of college, the NFL, all the great scouts, they had no idea. We all passed on them. I mean, not we all, because I wasn't.
Juan Manuel shares here, 16 teams is too much for the playoff. 15 teams, number one gets a bye. I don't agree with that because what happens, you're relying on a committee to decide who is number one. The bottom line at the end of the day, you're relying on a committee rather than it's what's just based down on like pure facts, because pure facts are statistics. Because you go back to statistics and facts of last season, there was no way Alabama should have been ranked over Miami, even regardless of the loss Miami had to end the season. But again, like I said, can't rely on a committee to decide who's truly number one. Number one just this past year didn't even win. So that's just the way I look at it. But
especially just like the kids that are playing, that you say will go to an SEC team and be happy with a 7-win SEC team versus a 7-win AC or an 8 or 9-win ACC team. The people that are voting for some reason think the SEC is better than everybody else also. And I always say, how are you the best if you just keep beating each other? You can't really tell. It's out of control.
Look at how many teams they tried cramming into that the 11th, 12th, and 13th spot. 13th would be like the team on the outside looking in. It was ridiculous. Bobby Finstock shares here. Great to see you guys back. Go Canes, go Panthers. Yes,
Bobby runs FTSN. Bobby, thanks for joining. Does a fantastic job. Remember, like and subscribe to the FTSN network. Another thing there, Joe, they did the same thing in college basketball. Was it the SEC that had like almost half the tour in baseball? Wasn't it baseball? They almost had half the tournament, it seemed, and none of them advanced, or one or two. Yeah. They do that, and they just jam those teams in there. So you're right. So I think 16 teams probably be a lot. I mean, how far can they go? It's not like basketball where they can play every day when they go to 64 teams or 68 teams now. Juan Manuel, will Mark Fletcher be used as a fullback weapon out of the backfield? Him and Lofton can give some linebackers problems.
I wouldn't see Mark Fletcher being used as a fullback, but Elijah Lofton, you will see that at some points. Not exactly as a fullback, more so what they call like an H-back now. He's going to be lined up in different places. He's going to play as a flex. He can play inline. He can play some running back, can play some H-back as well, like as a pseudo fullback nowadays, basically what it is. But yeah.
Here's a good question by Arlie. Thanks for joining the show, Arlie. Who would be the MVP for the Canes? Is he talking about for the football season? Who's going to be the MVP this year?
I know everyone will rush to say Carson Beck, but I think Carson Beck's best friend this year, as long as this guy stays healthy, what Elijah Lofton can do on the football field, I think he's going to be the most valuable player to that offense as a whole. Just I could see him having like a really big breakout year as long as there's no injury. I could seriously see it happening just because of what he brings to the table. I know Carson Beck loves to throw to his tight ends too, so that's going to be a staple in that offense. Could really see Elijah Lofton having a huge breakout campaign.
I've been trying to look up what Brock Bowers did that year, and he had in that 2000. What did he do? I see him last year, and obviously he was great because he caught 112 passes in the NFL for Las Vegas. But he was dominating. Was he a Heisman finalist that year? I'm not sure, but he was.
I think he was actually.
Will Lofton be that type of player?
I think both of them are a little different in terms of like, how would I say it? Hold on. I don't know if I want to compare the two to each other. Actually, the one that kind of reminded me of Bowers is the kid that they have, the younger kid they have behind Lofton right now. But we'll see how much he plays this year because Lofton and Bowman are going to play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think Bowers was nominated as a Heisman finalist. I'm surprised. So yeah, Bowers, his like big breakout year was the one where he had almost 900 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown as well. He had 14 total touchdowns that year. His second year, it was 942 yards, a receiving, 7 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. They used them in different places. His junior year, he was All-American as well. 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, but he had missed some games that season too. But yeah, just overall his career at Georgia, he had 26 touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. He had over 31 touchdowns in 3 years as a tight end. That's
awesome. So we can get that kind of tight end play. If we have 2 good tight ends, that's solid. And I think using the backs also would be great. Let's see. Stephanie G says throws you up. Thank you, Stephanie. Glad to have you on the show. I know her pretty well since she's my wife. Thanks for joining. Let's say, will Darian Coleman or Luke Nichols start in 2026, or will it be another portal quarterback? Justin Green, great question. Will the portal quarter starters end? I hear so much about Darian Coleman, and we know about Luke Nickel. Do you think one of those guys will be the guy in 2026?
I think the next starting quarterback is not on this roster yet, and I don't think it's a high school guy either.
So you think we're going to keep on going back to the portal for later?
I think at least I think it's going to be one more year that they do, and a lot of that has to do with how the makeup of the schedule is next season.
You don't think Luke Nickel will be ready?
Not that I don't think he'll be ready. I just find it hard. Like, for example, I was looking at this some time ago. Miami is expected to open up the 2026 season. I believe it is against, South Carolina. They'll have South Carolina on the schedule on the road. They'll have Clemson on the road. They're going to have Notre Dame on the road in 2026 as well. I'd be hard-pressed to believe, this is just my opinion, don't take this as fact, anyone, but I'd be hard-pressed to believe that Miami would just hand the keys over to a freshman quarterback or just a young quarterback right out of the gate. If they get a star transfer, we'll see, or if it's just a guy who kind of bridges the gap to the next one, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be shocked if they didn't at least try to bring in another transfer quarterback.
But
whether it's on the same level as Ward is another story. What happened?
don't you think we take the risk of losing some of our quarterbacks of the future?
Mm,
I don't think Coleman, because he's going to be a freshman. But Nickel, I mean, it depends what he does, or you think it's,
well, some people had that thought about Emory Williams during this offseason that, would he potentially leave the program or not or whatever, and he stayed regardless.
How much demand did he have?
There were some teams interested.
Mm-hmm.
There's some teams interested because some teams valued the fact that he's actually played in some big games. I know people will contend against like how much his involvement was in the win over Clemson, but regardless, that was still impressive in itself, being a true freshman, being able to beat a ranked Clemson team, no matter what, how everything transpired. But yeah, there was some teams that were interested.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin. Excellent question. Chris Senecola says he agrees with you. The portal. You both are on the same wavelength that we're going to go to the portal. Kevin Dennis, welcome to the show. Word on the street, we ain't getting nobody. You're right. We're just shutting the whole program down. I assume he's talking about recruiting, correct? And so
they'll land people. They're not.
We'll land a few more. We'll still field the team in 2026. I'm pretty confident. If not, we're just getting rid of the whole CanesWear store. Just getting rid of the whole thing if there's no team. Let's see. Pierre Carder, at least we have a low decom. A low decommitment rate. That is a good point. We are doing pretty well on that. Kevin, I just joined the show. Thank you for joining. Please tell me a football recruit we have a chance with. Well, we discussed that for a while, and we've got a pretty good class. We did steal a few guys from some of the bigger teams, and we got Justin Cantwell over everybody.
Yeah.
So we did. We've won some battles here, Kevin. It's all hope is not lost. We've won some battles, and we're going to win some more. You cannot win every one when you're going against Alabama, Texas A&M's, Ohio State's, Mississippi State. And I heard from somebody recently, all the Texas teams, every one of them has billions of dollars of oil money. So they can just bid for anyone, outbid anyone. So I mean, we don't have any chance financially against those guys. So. And we've won 10 games all of once in the last 17 years. I think we're doing pretty good. At least I'm always drinking the Kool-Aid. Pierre, the players we have want to be Canes. That's something you always hear, that we want guys that want to be Canes. True. But and that's important. And hopefully they can play. That's the key. Chris Senecola, there is a DT that is 5'7", 220 that we really think we can land out of Alaska. I've heard about that guy. He's awesome. I mean, let's see. The Duck, the mullet run. Kosar won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys. He did. But I thought his performances with Cleveland against Denver in both of those in both of those games was better when he was actually the leader of that Brown team. One of them, I think it was Ernest Biner, fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line, if I recall. And the other game was the drive. It may have been the same game, but Cleveland and Kosar was awesome. He was fantastic then. But he did win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys. I did say no Hurricane had won. I think there's some other Hurricanes who are backups as well that have won the Super Bowl, but I could be wrong. I actually bet the Indianapolis Colts, so they may have been the Baltimore Colts when Craig Erickson was the quarterback, and they lost this. He didn't actually get to play quarterback. Jim Harbaugh did and did very well. And they lost to the Steelers in the AFC championship game. But that's just another one of my wonderful betting stories. That show is on at 8:00 Central Time. Let's see, Pierre. What's the word with Devonta Anderson? Back to you, Gio.
I don't expect Miami to take him. They're not exactly prioritizing him in terms of the safeties they're after. The guys that you would have to watch more closely moving forward over the next couple of weeks would be Blake Stewart out of the state of Georgia and Tyree Green out of the state of Georgia, both 4-star safety prospects. We spoke about them earlier in the show as well. But, yeah.
You said Tyree Green you were very high on, correct?
Yeah. Got some really good feedback on that over the last 2 weeks. I've brought it up here. I've brought it up on my show with Amon a couple of times already. Things still trending that way, that Miami's actually more in that one than initially thought.
Awesome. So that's exciting. Hassan, Gio, if Miami misses out on Perry and Nolan Smith, is there any other DT Miami can go after?
I think you'd see a reshuffling of the board. They're still going to recruit James Johnson long term, despite his Georgia commitment. Of those two guys, of Bryce Perry Wright and Nolan Wilson, I mentioned earlier in the show that I think Miami just has a better shot at Bryce Perry Wright heading into this weekend between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I expect Nolan Wilson to end up with Alabama. I think it's going to be really tough for Miami to beat out what is years worth of relationships compared to a few months recruiting Nolan Wilson.
Awesome. Rocco, thanks for joining the show. ACC is good for us, and we get a cakewalk into the CFP playoff. I guess that's the way it's always been. Hasn't been too successful for us yet, though. But we can't even get to the ACC conference championship game with CFP level talent. Reminds me of who we were in the Big East. Well, when we were in the Big East, we dominated college football. But we were independent. We really dominated college football. I think the ACC has some drawbacks for us, though. We don't get the money, which is important, and we also don't get the cred. You see teams like Texas A&M wasn't even that good. They went to the SEC, and they became good. Other teams as well did the same thing. Missouri as well, right? Missouri? So it's so you never know. I like the ACC. I hope they get their act together again. I'd like to stay in the ACC, but it would be kind of exciting playing all those SEC teams. What's your thought on that, Gio? Any thought?
What where I would like to see Miami go to?
Yeah, where would you like to go?
Oh, I think in a perfect world, Miami to go to the SEC, but the SEC will never allow that. So
because of the Florida factor?
Yes. So Miami will go to the Big Ten, and a lot of that has to do just with Donna Shalala actually set up certain things over time. I know people rag on her when she was the president of the school and whatnot, but there are certain moves that she made over time that has positioned Miami very well for a move to the Big Ten.
Really? I didn't know that. So that's interesting. Christopher, welcome to the show. Just want to see a glimpse of the canes that raised me when the patch on the jersey meant nothing and competition on the green shoe was greater than most Saturday opponents. We all want to see that.
Yeah.
We all want to see that. It's a different day, when you see Sean Taylor backing up, Ed Reed and other players. But hopefully we'll get to that way. Mario would love that to be the case. Mario wants to see those intense practices. Pierre gives us 100%. Rocco, CFP playoff talent. We know. Aaron, welcome to the show. Keep recruiting nationally. Lots of 4 to 5 around the country, as we can see. Would love to be in a city like Miami. I agree. I mean, that is the one advantage we have. This is Miami. This is South Beach. This is Miami Beach. This is the water. This is playing in a Super Bowl stadium. I mean, I was at Gainesville last year in the Swamp. I mean, they rave about that Swamp. I'm sitting up on the upper deck. It's 120 degrees. It seemed like no air whatsoever. To get in the stadium, it took about 2 hours, it seemed. So we are playing in one of the greatest stadiums in America.
The Super Bowl's hosted at Hard Rock Stadium. We're going to have World Cup games hosted at Hard Rock Stadium next summer.
We have the national championship game. And we not only have the Orange Bowl, but we have the national championship game. So this is a number one. This is for those that think we're a tier 2 team, this is a tier 1 stadium. And it's very easy to get to. I know people say, oh, it's too far for the kids at school. How many kids from the University of Miami actually go to the games? And they're driving on a bus. And the Orange Bowl was not easy to get to either. Let's face it. And there was no tailgating there. There was no tailgating like there is now. You'd have to park in some guy's home, and hopefully the guy didn't lose his keys that's behind you, and you're not blocked for 3 hours. But
no blocky.
No blocky, no blocky, no blocky. Exactly. 818 Callie Kane, the new to the show. Thank you for joining. Need to win the ACC to win the big-time battles. If Mario doesn't win the ACC this year, they will continue to not hit high-end prospects. I agree. Mario's not getting fired, but this is a mini make-or-break season for Mario, in my opinion.
You have to build on last year.
Yeah, the boosters, everything. They're paying a lot of money. I heard they were not happy that they did not get to the ACC championship game with all the money they spent. And we got a bargain at Cam Ward, $1 million. I mean, you will never get that bargain again, $1 million for the number 1 draft pick in the country. Think about that. $1 million was nothing Now they're paying what, 3, 4, 5, 6 million for some of these kids. So, but I agree, Mario has to win. I don't think he'll be fired, but if he gets worse than last year, I think there's going to be a lot of people calling for his job. You think so, Gio?
Yeah, the pressure will definitely intensify. I think you have to. Not even I think. You just have to build upon last year, whatever that means in the grand scheme of things, or how when the dust settles, we'll see. But you have to improve on what it was from last year, whether that's winning the ACC, finding a way into the playoff, whatever the case may be. But the goal last year was to win the ACC. They came just short of that. So.
No, exactly, and he's got to be the first coach in a long time to win 10-win seasons, and he's getting a lot of help this year by having 8 of his 12 games at home.
Yeah.
So, and the old days when they won 10 games, they only had 11 games they played actually, and there was no ACC championship game, and there were. So, Caveman Talk, welcome to the show. He was 29 when he was drafted. Who are we talking about there?
I think he was talking about Chris Winkie.
Chris Wink. Okay, thank you. Wow, 29. Oh snap! It's Mikey. Welcome to the show. Gio, shoot your early starting depth chart. I don't know. These questions go on forever.
All right, I'll rapid fire that. Beck, Fletcher, but Lyle will get starter level snaps. Shamar Brown will very much be in the mix there. I think your starting receivers, you'll see CJ Daniels and JoJo Trader on the outside. I'm kind of iffy on the slot thing. I could see Tony Johnson getting the start for the Notre Dame game because of experience, but I could see Malachi Tony taking over the slot position just a few games into the season. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to keep him off the field. Tight end, I think it's just going to be either an or situation. Elijah Lofton and Alex Bowman are both going to play starter level snaps. Offensive line, Markel Bell. I think Matthew McCoy ultimately wins the left guard job. We'll see. Center, James Brockermeyer. Right guard, Inez Cooper. Right tackle, Francis Mauanoa. Your defensive ends, Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain, even though a ton of other guys are going to play, like Marquise Lightfoot, Armando Blunt, Hayden Lowe, Malik Bryant, those particular guys are going to be heavy in that rotation. Defensive tackles, I think you'll see David Blay and Justin Scott. I know people might jump and say, oh, but what about Ahmad Moten? I think Ahmad Moten will still be in that mix for heavy snaps, but I just the sense I get from what they want with his defensive scheme, I think a guy like David Blay with his body type and being that potential nose tackle on the defense could definitely help. I could see him getting the starting nod. Your linebackers, those will likely be 2. I think you'll see this one's a tough one for me, actually, because people are kind of like on the fence, like what happens with Wesley Bissainthe? Is he going to stay as an outside linebacker? Is he going to move inside? I'm going to go with Popo Aguirre starting at middle linebacker.
I hope so, because I just like the way you say his name.
Yeah, Aguirre. Yeah, he's half Cuban. I've had some conversations with Popo in the past. It's really good. I have him at middle linebacker. The weak side linebacker, I think it's going to be an either-or situation between Wesley Bissainthe and Mohamed Touré. Mohamed Touré, I highly anticipate them to be moving him around the field. Like, he could play some Mike at some points, could play some weak side linebacker, could play as a stand-up rusher, could put his hand in the dirt and pass rush as well as a defensive end. I think Mohamed Touré is a guy that's kind of that like positionless football. He's just a pure football player that you could put at different parts of the field and whatnot.
Awesome. Anyone we miss?
Oh, and defensive backs, I got OJ Frederic and Xavier Lucas at cornerback. Your safeties, I think on the opening game will be Zachariah Poyser and Jacoby Thomas.
Awesome. Look at that. Where else do you get that kind of I like a quick shot of the depth chart? Now, I'm sure Gio's going to probably be right on most of them. I'm just going on the record, not putting any
Yeah,
pressure.
I'll put out something like as we get to fall camp and my thoughts, but that's just off the top of my head right now.
Awesome. Mikey, good question there. Mikey says smash the like button. Exactly. Smash the like, follow FTSN, shop at CanesWear, follow Gio. That's your only homework assignment today. Mikey, am I and I'm the typical Kane fan that's believing every year is going to be our year. I agree. I mean, there's been a few years I haven't, but you always drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. But that Kool-Aid is not as sweet as it was at one time. Hopefully, if we get 11 wins this year, I'll be happy. Now, the average fan is last year we thought if we could win 10 games, and then all of a sudden we had a chance. We thought, okay, we want the national championship now, and everyone thought it was a disappointing year at 10 wins. I hear it all the time in the store. Oh my goodness, we'll never be able to win a championship again. We couldn't win with Cam Ward, which I say we won 5 championships without Cam Ward. So none of those quarterbacks were as good as Cam Ward. Maybe Vinny was right up there with them, but the point is that teamwork is everything. And last year, if Cam had a defense, we go a lot farther. Yeah. We have a new defensive coordinator, and I'm very excited about that. And I'm excited about our special teams. Jake, welcome to the show. I'll never look back fondly on Tyler. I assume that's Tyler Van Dyke.
I believe so.
Okay. So, Tyler, good kid and everything. He was playing well. I think Tyler was hurt. I think they should have sat Tyler. They should have sat Tyler when the kid was playing. Emory was playing well, and they rushed Tyler back. It made no sense. We beat Clemson. We beat Virginia. Why rush Tyler back into it against Georgia Tech? Correct. It was just was that the Georgia Tech game you rushed him?
No, NC State.
NC State just made no sense whatsoever. And why not pull Tyler at halftime? I thought that was a big mistake of Mario's. I mean, that was a game we had no offense whatsoever. And that game, we win that game, we could go to the ACC title game. So I didn't understand the coaching there. That's the CEO's job. The CEO of a business, the CEO of any corporation, and the coach is the same thing. I thought Mario made a big mistake there. So, and if he asks me, I'll tell him. Wait, he's calling right now. Let's see. Jake, I wouldn't want to buy in the playoffs, especially if my team has momentum. Well, I wouldn't mind to buy because that means we had a great season, but I understand what you're saying. Aaron, Leonard Taylor, perfect example of the habit scheme issues. He's about to explode next year in the NFL. I agree. Leonard Taylor, we thought was going to be a beast. When he came on board, there was talk about him being Mr. Everything, and it didn't work out that way. Why do you think it went south for Leonard?
I'll be honest with you. Oh, this is really tough. So I don't think it's that he's not in love with football. I think it's just, I think it depends on like the people that are around you, kind of like the saying of tell me who you hang with and I'll tell you who you are. Sometimes your peers can be an influence as well. Mm-hmm. I will say this, though. The most interesting thing that I ever heard about Leonard Taylor in the pre-draft process, this is before he went undrafted and ended up signing with the Jets. He had a nice rookie year last year. I was told, this is legit, true story, that he told an NFL representative that he would he'd be content if he played a few years in the league and got out and just ran his own fashion business. Do I think maybe his sentiment has changed since then? Maybe. I can't speak for what his thoughts are today, but I found that really interesting when I heard that back then. And it's crazy because he has tremendous talent. He really does. Like if he is honed in, 100% focused on football, he's a tremendous player.
You find more and more players in football that just retire. They don't have the drive. If you lose your drive, Calvin Johnson, he pretty much retired in the prime. Even Barry Sanders retired. He could still run. He could have easily got the record. And he said, "I'm done." And there's been other players that have just said, "No mas," in the like or like Roberto Duran said against Sugar Ray Leonard. No mas, no mas. They just don't want it anymore. And you have to be so in tune with that game. If you lose one step, I've spoke to a lot of players, and if you're not 100% into it, you might as well just hang up the cleats, because there's going to be someone hungrier than you, and you're either not going to get your job or you're going to get hurt. Obviously, these guys, it's a livelihood. And if he likes fashion better, it's going to be very difficult, and for him to survive. But he is looking good now, and I think he will be good. But you have to have the drive, that's for sure. Obviously, the money comes with football. That's the only thing. The money comes with football. It's hard to hit a home run on fashion if
Well, sometimes I think too that when your livelihood or your day-to-day is on the line, sometimes it brings the better out of people too. It's just like the competitiveness of it.
And everybody matures differently.
Yeah.
It's a different world. These guys are all as good as you, or you come into college as a 5-star or so, you think you're the best. Nobody's better than me. I dominated high school. You go to the NFL now, it's like, wow, look at all these guys. They're all as fast as me. They're all as big as me.
Yeah.
It's like, and they all hit as hard as me. What the heck? How am I going to survive? Faith Family Football, welcome to the show. NFL does the 14-team playoffs. Top 2 teams get a first-round bye. Not a bad idea. That'd be kind of a decent bye, a decent group for that, a grouping for the playoffs. Jake, load up Bell in the backfield on the goal line plays, the Miami Icebox.
He's talking about Markel Bell.
Markel Bell. So like the refrigerator there we're talking about. Newt King God, welcome to the show. What happened with Devin Jackson? I think we covered that earlier, right?
What didn't happen? I mean,
we didn't get him.
Will Harris's guy at Florida. Miami hosted him twice in spring. He decommitted from Florida shortly thereafter. I mentioned that, it was Miami and Oregon battling. Most people would think that should be one that Miami should be closing on, and didn't happen. That didn't happen. I know they plan to recruit him long term, but again, that is definitely one that stings more than any, I would believe, just because of the coaching connection there.
But okay, Oregon obviously we know is extremely deep pockets with Nike. I mean, could they have just said, "Hey, what is Miami giving you? We're giving you twice the money."
Well, I heard through the grapevine that Oregon is also offering guys that come into their program a guaranteed job at Nike, even after your career is over. So basically, if your football career does not go well at Oregon, you have something to fall back on after it's all done.
What are they going to be, salesmen at the clearance store or what? I mean, it's like, is it
That's what I heard through the grapevine, and thought, wow, that's really creative and outside the box.
Exactly, totally outside. But if he says, if Phil Knight says, let's give him an extra $1 million or whatever Miami's giving him, it's hard to say no. So it's not Mario's fault a lot of times. It's who's offering the most money, and we're definitely not going to outbid everybody.
Yeah.
After everything, do you think Miami still finishes with a top 8 class? New King God says.
Yeah, like I've said, I think Miami's a tier 2 team in recruiting, which is just that group that's right after Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Oregon. Like those programs recruit at a bit of a different level than Miami over the last few years, and that's totally fine. Miami has to win to continue moving up and consistently. Just 1 10-win year like we've been talking about on this show, that's not enough of just overall. Like, again, you look at the body of work these programs are winning, getting in the playoffs year after year after year. Miami has to do that. That people forget the perception. Like, Miami's a national brand, the U is a national brand, that logo, but perception to these kids means a lot at the same time. So do I think Miami could still finish like a top 8 class? Yeah, I think Miami's tier 2 in recruiting. I think 5 to 10 is reasonable. I think people guaranteeing top 5 classes is crazy though. Like, there's only been one top 5 class since Cristobal arrived, and some of that had to do with Alabama and Texas taking smaller classes that year. If they took just a couple more guys, they would have leapfrogged over Miami. Miami would have went from 4th to 6th. I'm just being honest.
I mean, I wonder. I'm sure there's studies done. I mean, the team that won the national championship, what was the recruiting for that year? I mean, is it always the top 5 recruiting teams? What's the lowest recruiting team that we've seen? Obviously, when the Hurricanes won in the '80s, those weren't the best recruited teams. I mean, even Ed Reed in 2001 was what, a 2-star? And the guy that Ed Reed
but back then things were so different because a lot of the tape coaches were watching was just basically on VHSs. They were going to watch these guys in person. Nowadays, everything's so accessible with social media and the internet and just being able to upload tape to a cloud database that coaches can just go and watch at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Things have changed so much.
No, they have, but they do miss. And
oh yeah, for sure.
We had playing quarterback
These
last
guys
year.
that slip through the cracks that
he was a 0. Wasn't Cam Ward a 0? I don't even know how you can be a 0.
I'll give you another story like that. Khalil Mack. Mm-hmm. He was from the state of Florida. No big programs were really on him. He ended up going to Buffalo. Now look at him, multi-Pro Bowler, was a defensive player of the year in the NFL too with the Raiders many years back.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, absolutely. But Cam Ward 0-star, and he just amazing. Let's see. Even Steph Curry, I remember, was in basketball. It was like a low star. I mean, he was a 1 or a 2, and they said he wouldn't.
Yeah, Davidson. Yeah.
So these guys don't get it. It's how we coach them up. It's how they grow. There's a lot involved. Over under 4.5 flips during the season.
I won't even answer that because there's just so much that could happen between now and then. I think it would be way too early to even answer something like that.
All right, Alex, welcome to the show. How come lots of teams start freshman QBs, but Miami hardly does? Is it a lack of confidence in the player?
No,
was the one, I think, right?
I think it has more to do with if you're investing so much in these other transfer portal players, why are you gonna risk that with a true freshman starting at quarterback? Like the amount of players that Miami's taken and put into key spots, like why do that? Like you look at it from the coach's perspective of okay, back then Tyler Van Dyke, it didn't work out, whatever. Mm-hmm. They still tried to put pieces around him, like in different places, to try to make it work, to try to make it go. Same thing with Cam Ward last year. Or you get a guy like Carson Beck, then you have to double down and try to add more talent around him. So I get what he's saying. It's been a long time since Miami's done that. But again, it has to do with what's in place there at the time, what's upcoming, what's developed, what's proven, and it's just a lot of things that come into play. Miami's not in a rebuild mode right now. They're trying to continue building.
True. I mean, and I think most teams are doing what Miami's doing now, is grabbing a guy that's ready and proven. There are some teams that have
because they're cheaper than the high school quarterbacks. There's high school quarterbacks asking for 7-figure contracts, and you have no idea if that kid's even going to materialize at the next level.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We had the number 1 quarterback in the country. Who was it? Came out where Ken Dorsey came out of. What was his name again? And he did not do too well. What was his name again? The guy that followed the year after Dorsey?
Kyle Wright.
Kyle Wright, yes. He was the number 1 quarterback in the country. So there's no guarantee these guys. You can say even in the NFL, these guys are drafted in the first round. I mean, the people spend a ton of money on them, and they're flops at times. Hassan, Gio, does relationship really matter anymore? Because there are recruits in Miami. There are recruits. Miami recruit them for years. Then Alabama or Georgia start recruiting them for a couple of months, and they take them away. But I think they sometimes have guys or Alabama guys that come to Miami. But anyway,
yeah. Sorry. Well, I think to an extent. I think relationships still do matter to a certain point. There are some recruitments that it still comes into play, especially like if the compensation level is very similar between the contenders for a kid's choice. I will say, though, that, I've said it many times before. I think Miami has to deal with a ridiculous set of politics in South Florida at times that other teams don't have to deal with. Let's say Miami was, let's say they were late on a kid when he was a upcoming sophomore or junior and they hadn't offered yet, but this SEC school offered, or things like that have happened, which is crazy and ridiculous. But again, Miami gets set to those standards.
Absolutely.
But I think this is also why you see, being very honest, I think this is also why you see Cristobal recruit at a national level. It's not just all South Florida guys.
Mm-hmm. True. And we've always done well. I mean, everyone thinks it's all South Florida guys. We've always drafted guys, recruited guys all over the country. I mean, some of our better players. Can Miami have a top 20 offense and defense this year? New King God, I totally believe they will. I think we will be one of the best rushing teams in the country.
I think offense is very possible. Defense, I don't want to say that right now because there's defensive coordinators that could come into a program and light it on fire, and there's some that it could be an absolute disaster. I'm more of a wait and see mode. I think Miami's offense will still be good. I don't know if it'll be as good as last year, but I still think it'll be like near that top group. Just again, I'm still wait and see mode about the defense.
Yeah. I'm predicting it though, if anybody cares. I do think they can start running game. What were we run for 200 yards a game last year?
Yeah, Miami was number 2 in run game efficiency last season.
And I think this year we're going to run for 250 yards. We will running, and I think Carson Beck is fine handing the ball off. I think he is going to be a game. I think he's going to throw it when he needs to, but I think he just wants to win. I think he wants to prove to people that I can win a national championship in Miami. I mean, the first guy that wins a national championship here is going to be a hero forever.
Oh, he's going to be legendary.
Exactly. So, and I do think everything I've heard him say, I just want to win. Whatever it takes, I want to win. I do believe it. And if you're, and that's key. And I think the Hurricanes were trying to get Cam to pass more, which was fine. But if we would have handed off against Syracuse, they would have never stopped us. I mean, we could have ran all day long. We could have ran all day long in the bowl game, which we should have in the second half, for that matter. Number 1 Kane, we just found him, the number 1 Kane. Welcome to the show. Will any of the 3 stars we have committed move to a 4-star?
Can see that with some guys like Joel Irvin. Who else I would throw in there? Tyron Evans, even though I think he's a 4-star on one of the sites already. Justin Edwards. Anyone else I would throw into that category? Let's see. Yeah, I'd say I would say those 2. Justin Edwards and Joel Irvin. I could see those 2 finding their way in.
Juan Manuel is the ACC, the Rodney Dangerfield of college. We get no respect here.
Love Rodney Dangerfield.
I quote him all the time. I get no respect. It's tough being me. Exactly. They're definitely as close to Rodney Dangerfield as anybody. And we've actually had national championship winners here. I mean, Clemson's won a couple. Florida State won. I mean, so there's been national championship teams here. Probably what? It's the SEC, the Big Ten, and then us in order. And it probably was. We were ahead of the Big Ten in the last 10 years, except for now that they won back-to-back championships.
Yeah.
But we still maybe. If we had three national championships in 10 years, probably. When did Seamus won? About 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Hassan, Miami has to keep Mario. They fire Mario, who are they going to get? And when the new coach is average, the fans will start saying, let's fire him. Let's be patient. Let's see what Mario can do. I don't think they're firing Mario just yet.
He's not going anywhere anytime soon.
So he's got $80 million contract. But if he doesn't win, if he wins 9 or less, I do believe people are going to be calling for his job. And considering how much money we pay these players now, if you really think he's the wrong guy, you could get rid of the coach or buy him out. Hassan, Mario's Miami. We know Hassan is definitely part of the Mario fan club. Thank you, Hassan. Uncle Chuckaroo. Uncle Chuck. Anyway, we went to more games. We went to more games every year since Mario got here. So this is a 12-win season. I like it. If it's a 12-win season, Uncle Chuck, call me. Come to one of our shows. You get a $100 gift card just for you saying the first person to say it's a 12-win season. Okay. I'm not taping the show, so remember it yourself, please. We went. Let's see. Anthony joins the show at 9:04. Gio, were you able to watch tape of that 2027 quarterback that I was telling you about that Coach Dawson is really focusing on? Caden Croucher. Great name.
Now, I'll be honest with you, Anthony. I haven't been able to watch it yet. I'm actually on vacation right now, spending time with you guys on this show today, actually. I know my family's probably waiting outside of the room.
We're going to keep this 10 more minutes, Gio. 10 more minutes. 9:30, we're signing off. Gio could have questions all night long. So thank you, Anthony. So 10 minutes more to catch Gio. Get your last questions in. Gio, that's your homework assignment. When you get back to reality, check out Caden Croucher. All right?
Let's see.
Gio, the perfect example of this was just recently Darren Waller, the tight end for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Who went to the Dolphins, retired, and now he's on the Dolphins.
Came out of retirement for the Dolphins. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see. Hopefully he does well. Doc Kilby, sorry if this has been a hit on already. Anything with Kolajay, seeing multiple teams leading depending on the source.
Yeah. So when it comes to Brett Kolajay from IMG Academy, I mentioned this was right before June. This was like near end of May, I think May 22nd, May 23rd. I actually entered in a pick for Miami to land him. I think it's mostly between Miami and Georgia. I know some people are concerned about USC potentially with that late visit and whatnot, but most of this recruitment has been between Miami and Georgia. One of the biggest reasons why I like Miami in this recruitment, aside from feedback that I've gotten on it, is the tenure of the relationships that have taken place there. You're talking about a guy that Miami's been recruiting on the offensive line between Alex Mirabal and Mario Cristobal with Brett Kolajay for we're going on 3 years now. They've been recruiting this kid since before he blew up as a prospect, when Francis Mauignon was a 5-star prospect at IMG Academy. That's how long they've been recruiting this kid for. I still like Miami to get it done. I know people may see things from other places or whatnot. My pick has been on Miami. I haven't moved off of it. I think it's mostly a Miami and Georgia battle. I'd be surprised if USC really gets in there this late in the game. Some people have thought Georgia. Some people have thought Miami. I think he ends up in Miami. No, I think that's one that they have a legitimate shot of winning that battle.
So Gio's calling it Brad Kolajay, 80% chance going to Miami.
Brett Kolajay. Yeah.
It's Brett or Brad?
Breck.
Oh, Breck. Okay. Matthew Kyle Wright, correct. That's who the name I was looking for. New King, in your opinion, what does Miami need to do to get better in recruiting?
Just win.
Just win, baby.
I think already as it is off of the last 20 years that you're still able to recruit at a level that's between that range of 5th to 10th in the country, considering the history that hasn't been so great for the last 2 decades. I think that's a really big win in itself. So just continue winning on the field, change the perception, find your way to break through and become a tier 1 team in recruiting. Your Texas, your Georgia, your Ohio State, your Bamas, Oregons. Those are tier 1 teams in recruiting, because I promise you this, take a look at those classes those teams have had within the last 4 or 5 years. They've had classes where they've had 5 or more 5-stars in one class. Miami hasn't done that yet.
But these are championship caliber teams year in and year out. I mean, if you look at the difference, the correlation to bad team on the field versus highest recruiting, we are probably the biggest difference. For the level of our play the last 15 years, we recruit higher than anybody that plays at our level, I believe.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to compete with the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, that every single year are playing for a championship, basically. So I think they're doing pretty good, but the whole thing is winning. Just win. Al Davis said, just win, baby. New King, yes. Calvin Johnson did have some injuries. He did retire before he should have, but that was because of the injuries. Good point. Hassan might need to play Kellen Wiley, he's huge. Did you see him stand next to Popo? He was towering over him.
Yes, Hassan, I saw that photo. That was from back in the spring. I will say this. I like Kellen Wiley's potential, like down the line in the future. I think he's someone that impacts more on special teams rather than the field this year from what I saw in spring and from speaking to people. The talent's there. I think it's just more so mental game slowing down for him. Just more so processing things on the field. I don't think he's at that point yet that he makes like a massive jump in his first year at Miami that he's like a starter. Just the way I look. Again, he's a true freshman right now. I just don't see that right now for him. But I think he could be a really good player down the line.
Awesome. Doc Kilby, how long has Jedias Richard been in college?
This will be his 5th year. It's still kind of up in the air if he's going to play this year or not. We'll see what Miami decides there. Both parties decide, actually. You know, he could sit out the year, get a medical red shirt. I think he'll be a 6th-year player if he comes back one more year.
Jay Hall, so if one 10-win season or winning in general is the excuse for not picking Miami, why is Texas A&M getting picked over Miami? I mean, what's Texas A&M's class right now?
I know they're in the top 10.
Yeah. So,
but Texas A&M
has
also
a lot of oil money. Money does talk.
Yeah, they're throwing some
There's no comparison.
money.
But
they're not Texas A&M outside of that one historic class. They haven't recruited like that again. Like there's still levels to it, and the Texas Longhorns are still above the Aggies in terms of just recruiting.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, that's Texas money. Everyone talks about it. FTW, welcome to the show. What happened to Devin Jackson? We've mentioned that a few times. He just picked Oregon, right?
Miami just ended up losing out.
I mean, we could have
they
been
plan to recruit him long term, but yeah. And the next top safety target, I've brought this up for about 2 weeks now. Well, they're still on Blake Stewart, 4-star safety out of Georgia, battling there with Clemson. And the other guy that no one's really talked about yet, but I've brought up for the last 2 weeks, 4-star safety Tyreek Green out of Buford, Georgia. I was told that Miami's much more in that one than people had realized in the past.
Awesome. And Gio's very high on him. What type of strides is Dalen Wilson making? Do you see him getting playing time and doing well?
Yeah, he was he was in the rotation there in spring at defensive tackle. The one guy that was impressive in spring in terms of the young defensive tackles was particularly Dante Simpson. And the reason why is because of how young he is coming into the program. Technically, could have been like a 2026 recruit. The other aspect there is the play strength as well. Usually true freshmen don't impress early on at defensive tackle. It's a very physically demanding position. Really tough for guys to make that jump as a true freshman to be a difference maker. Again, I still have my concerns about defensive tackle overall. Like after your top 3 group of Scott, Blay, and Moten, like when you have to rely on true freshmen like Simpson playing as a starter, like if injuries happen, yeah, that's concerning. But as a rotation guy, a lot of upside there in his first year. I think he's someone that could become a really good player at Miami over time.
Awesome. Gio, what's the latest? Michael King asking this question. Thanks, Michael, for joining the show. Gio, what's the latest on Chance Robinson?
He's healthy now, rehabbed up and everything. He will be participating in fall camp. So we'll see where the chips fall there at receiver with him.
Gio, what's the health on Ryan Mack looking like?
I haven't got an update on Ryan Mack at all and what the situation is there with like his return back to football. He was suited up during spring, but did not take the field. So whatever that is, we'll see. He really hasn't practiced much at all since he arrived on campus.
What's stopping Hellcat from playing?
Last year it was more so weight. He's put on size this year. He had a couple of nice runs in some of the scrimmages as well. I spoke to some people that were out there, the private scrimmages. So again, that's still going to be open competition at running back in fall camp.
All right. A few more questions, and then we'll let Gio go back to his vacation. Blake Stewart, Cortez Redding, and Tyreek Green are the next safety targets.
Cortez Redding, they view more so as a nickel. He's not exactly a take for Miami right now. Some things would have to play out for that to happen.
Okay. New King, hopefully we take at least 4 bodies at DT. We just need to throw numbers at it because we're missing on the top players.
Yeah, the idea was to take 4. We'll see if that happens. I think just more so the way it's trending now lately, I think it's more likely 3, but we'll see.
All right. Sean Andrews, thanks for joining the show. Artavius Jones is DT4.
We'll have to see. I know they were optimistic that he could make a jump between spring camp and fall camp. He was nicked up throughout spring, missed quite some time. So we'll see. Dante Simpson really impressed the coaches throughout spring. So we'll see if he ends up being DT4 or not. I think Artavius Jones got a real competition there for that.
All right. Awesome. And last question of the day, Hassan. Gio, if you had to pick, who does Miami have a better chance with, Stewart or Green for safety?
That's a really tough question, actually. There was a time that most had expected Blake Stewart to commit to Miami, like even around the spring game. That was carrying into the summer too, and a lot of Clemson buzz recently. Clemson does a really good job in the state of Georgia as well. There's just close proximity there, being in the Carolinas. I'm going to lean more so Tyreek Green for now, and the reason why I'm saying this is it has a lot to do with the amount of defensive backs Georgia has in their class. Like, they have literally 3 safeties in their class right now, and also one of their cornerbacks in their class, which is a local guy who the Dolphins just had a trade done for his brother, actually. They gave him the promise that they'll let him play corner, but most people, like in the collegiate football level, like professionals at that level, believe that that kid is a safety on the next level. So technically, they really have 4 safeties in their recruiting class. I like Miami's chances for Tyreek Green. Haven't put in a pick or anything, but I mentioned it 2 weeks ago as something to monitor. There's more smoke picking up there. We'll see. His decision's on July 12th, so we're still a whole week out and some change. But yeah, and I'll take one more. I saw another interesting one down there. Are we still trending for Brody Jennings? Yes, I expect Brody Jennings to be a Miami Hurricane, the 4-star cornerback out of Jacksonville Mandarin.
Well, all right. We answered about 200 or 300 questions and comments of things, Jay. You did phenomenal in the lightning round there. Only 2.5 hours. Great job. Gio, it's your vacation now, but where can people find you?
Everyone can find me on X at Gio Milian, or also on YouTube. I have a weekly show with the Monrichers. We come on multiple times a week called Who Wants Smoke. You can also find it by the link. They now give like Twitter handles basically for YouTube now. So if you put at Who Wants Smoke _Inc., you can find that show as well. Also, just want to give a heads up, College Football 26, the video game is dropping next week. I'm going to have early access to it on Monday. I'm considering, because I'll be back from vacation, I'm considering doing a 24-hour stream that I will play the game and answer anyone's questions that anyone has.
Wow.
Whether it's on the game, on the team, anything I'm hearing. I'm considering doing something like that. We'll see if it's actually 24 hours. Maybe it'll be something shorter, because that's a lot, and I'm starting to get older, and it's kind of hard to stay up that long. But
Absolutely. No, that is a long time. 24 hours, like being straight on there and you're stayed up the whole time.
Yeah.
One of these telethons, right? We're raising money for something. All right. Well, thank you, Gio. Guys, remember, this is on the FTSN network. And go ahead and like and subscribe. Lots of good shows. Bobby and team, Dolphin shows, some Cane shows. gambling shows, lots of fun shows. Remember, CanesWear.com is the sponsor, and CanesWear in Davie at 2655 South University Drive in Davie. We are closed tomorrow, but Saturday and Sunday will be open, and we are having a sale starting tomorrow. So you'll be able to go online and you'll be able to see the sale, and everything in the store will be on sale. The more you buy, the more you save. So Canes, Dolphins, Heat, Marlins, who are playing well, and of course the back-to-back championship Florida Panthers, who hopefully the Miami Hurricanes start following in the footsteps of. That'll be great. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Any last few words, Gio?
I do have one, actually. My birthday's on Saturday. I feel special. Did you do the July 5th sale for my birthday?
As a matter of fact, I did. July 5th. So your birthday is July 5th. Wow. All right. So you're going to be, what, 21?
Oh, no.
Okay. So Gio,
about a little over a decade over that.
Well, feel free to like and subscribe to Gio. For a birthday present, you can go to his premium content page. All right, and that'd be a great present for Gio. You buy a whole year's worth, and it's a gift that keeps on giving. So good stuff. Happy birthday, Gio. Enjoy this time with your family. I'm sure they're looking forward and saying, this guy is always working, but I know your family is a bunch of troopers. No,
because I remember you had texted me earlier in the week, Brett. I think it was a couple of days ago. You said, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "No, yeah, let's do it. I'll make time for it."
He'll make time. He is a trooper. I said, "No, we don't have to do it. You're on vacation." Gio said, "I want to talk to the fans." Exactly. He definitely a trooper. The best in the business, Gio. Thank you so much. And with that, we will say we are 59 days till Hurricane football, and we're excited. It's only it's next month, August 31st. So start gearing up and. Let's go Canes. Let's start the season well with a big win against Notre Dame. And we'll have a prediction show soon for prizes and everything. So let's go Canes, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Go Canes, and everyone have a happy 4th of July weekend.
Happy and safe 4th of July. Good point. Thank you.